Check, check, 1, 2. Check, check, 1, 2.
I used to walk over there, but I used to, I'd bring things over, but then just to see how they were all doing. She was always fine. She was always on top of it, There were others that were not so fine.
No comment.
Not so fine. But she was just, she was just the greatest person to work with and to know.
Okay, let's start the meeting. A flag salute.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Shi?
Here.
Mr. Mohan Patel?
Here.
Ms. Peng?
Here.
Ms. Conway?
Here.
Dr. Chen?
Here.
Ms. Badowski?
Here.
Ms. Madiker?
Here.
Ms. White?
Here.
Mr. Burrell Patel?
Present.
All present.
Thank you. Opening statement, the New Jersey Open Public Meetings Act was enacted to ensure the right of the public to have advance notice of and to attend the meetings of public bodies at which any business affecting their interest is discussed or acted upon. In accordance with the provisions of this act, the Edison Board of Education has caused notice of this meeting to be published by having the date, time, and place thereof posted in the Board of Education and Administrative offices. Copies of these notices were sent to the Home News Tribune and the Star Ledger on January 5th, 2021. The public may participate at regular meetings in accordance with the bylaws and applicable state regulations. So the agenda, there's a little error here on the agenda that I have. We're not going to go to the privileged session. The privileged session will be the last item. So we're going to our regular session. So Dr. Bregan.
All right, I'm having some Wi-Fi issues here. Ann, can you just give me a rough copy there? Yeah, thank you. Sorry about that. Thank you, Board President Shi. A couple of things on the administrative piece here. First up, you'll find under A, capital improvement projects for school facilities. This resolution to approve the renovations of the HVAC systems in the cafeterias at Edison High School and John P. Stevens High School, as well as the auditorium renovation at Edison High School. After that, you will see two resolutions, one for the date for the PSAT testing, which is October 13th, and then we have the PSAT testing 8-9 for 8th grade students will be December 8th. After that, there is the approval resolution for the school improvement panel that's required, and then subsequent to that is each school, individual schools, team members that are listed on the school improvement panel. You'll see a number of policy updates there. Most of those are revisions. There are a few new ones in there, and those are, almost all of those policies are mandated policies. They do have some flexibility for some delineation of which person would be the designated person in lieu of the superintendent to implement some of the procedures, but for the most part, they're all mandated. There's a number of policies there related to COVID-19 that are no longer required or no longer accurate with the changes in the governor's laws and executive orders that ended the state of emergency. And along with that, there's a couple of additional policies that are aligned with the state DOE, the road forward, and some of those new executive orders, such as Executive Order 251, the mask mandate, and Executive Order 253, which is the requirement for vaccinations for employees in a school district. After that, there are a few curriculum revisions. English, grades 9 through 12, U.S. History 1 and U.S. History 2, in addition to a new elective, Introduction to African American Studies, which is a high school class as well. You'll find our professional development documentation for staff that are attending trainings. And then our pupil services, our normal out-of-district placements for the month, as well as we're adding some related services providers should we need those. Just trying to check, Board President Shi, that's all I have on that part.
Okay. Now we are going to the...
Can I ask a question, Jerry? I have a question on the administrative report.
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dr. Bragan, can you expand on the capital improvement projects? What exactly is planned for Edison High School, and what exactly is planned for JP Stevens? And what does the HVAC, what does that mean? Like, exactly what are we doing?
Sure. The HVAC is going to be at both cafeterias, and it's basically a total renovation of the heating, ventilation, and air conditioning systems. So at both high schools, those large spaces where we have probably the largest group of kids that meet on a regular basis, they will have upgraded heating, but they will, in addition, also have air conditioning, which we think is important as we move forward to try to do that in as many spaces, especially the large area spaces. The renovation for the auditorium is going to be a total renovation of the auditorium, you know, from soup to nuts, and really update it. We're not making it...
For JP Stevens?
That's for Edison High School.
Oh, for
We're
Edison
not
High,
making it
okay.
any bigger because we don't have the facilities to expand that space, but we're going to do a total renovation. The JP Stevens is not included in that because that's part of a larger project that's still in discussion with the Finance and Facilities Committee, and a renovation of this space will be part of that entire renovation. So we didn't want to do the renovation of this space and then with the larger project, in a year or two later, demolish what we just built and redo it. So that's why this space is not included in that.
So I just had a question. Are we going to keep this auditorium and renovate it later, or are we going to build an auditorium in a different place?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear that.
Yeah, this is the audio is not great. What I was saying is, are we going to be improving this particular auditorium?
Yes. No,
Or
it's-
or will we be building an auditorium at a different place?
It'll be in this location, but a total renovation of what you see here. Even the stage alignment and stuff will be in a different location.
So you know, I just wanted to just mention that the high school students do their study hall in the auditorium. So if the auditorium, new auditorium, is built at a place which is far away from this building, then they would have to walk.
Maybe I wasn't clear. It's going to be in this location, but
Okay.
larger, but it's not going to be oriented this way. It's actually, if I remember correct, the stage is going to be oriented that way, and it's going to be a much larger space, but it will be part of the actual premises, and you will not have to walk outside.
Okay.
So to use it for a study hall and stuff would actually be a great use, and it'll be much larger. That's
Okay,
the
yeah,
plan.
I just wanted to be clear on that.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, thank
Great.
you.
You're welcome.
Well, I was trying to hold off on the comments to the end, but since Sherry started, I just want to point out that for the professional development for Belinda here,
Yes.
this is 2022, about 21.
Which one is that? In February? 100%.
Yeah. Okay.
There's a February date listed in professional development, and that should obviously be 22 and not 21.
Yep.
Thank you, Mr. Shea.
Thank you. You just wanted to test me if I was paying attention.
You passed.
Okay. All right, now we're going to the finance section. Mrs. Clark.
For finance, we have the investment report, the approval of the minutes from the August board meeting, and then the board secretary report, and the treasurer of school monies report. For the finance resolutions, we have the transfer of funds, we have grants, we have some bids, and some transportation, some contracts, and non-public school services. We also have some obsolete items, the bills list, and the transportation report. And that's it for finance.
Okay. So I just have a quick question about the transportation here. These are the other new routes that we added. Is that because after we had that incident with the canceled routes, or this has been already, it's not part of that? Are these added on because to remediate the issue with that, or no?
The ones that we're removing are they were duplicate routes. They should not have been on there and posted.
Okay.
And the additional routes are routes that we had, if you'll see further down, there's a lot more routes.
Yeah.
Those are additional routes.
These are
They are not necessarily in addition to the ones that were canceled. I can make a statement on that in a little while if you want.
Yeah. Okay. So these are the ones that we try to remediate that issue, that we got more buses for that? Some of them. Okay. Thank you.
I also had one question.
Yes, go ahead.
I just want to ask about the appointment or the approval of the Summit Management Solutions. Is this under the bid threshold? Or maybe this is professional services, so there was no bid on
Right.
this one?
Right, these are professional services, you don't have to go out to bid.
So this is a no bid contract?
This, a professional services contract, yes.
Okay.
Anything else for Dr. Bragan and Mrs. Clark on the issues here? Wait. You have opportunity later, okay? Yep. All right. Now we're open for board member comments. I have a couple of questions. I'm gonna start with Dr. Bragan. Sorry. So the first question is about the quarantine of the kids, right? So for the students quarantined, can they dial into the classroom and just watch? Not talking about hybrid. They just watch the class that's ongoing to help them a little bit. That's the first question. And the second question related to that, the quarantines, how many days they need to be home for the vaccinated kids versus non-vaccinated kids? Can these kids provide a negative test after, 3-4 days and come back to school a little earlier than that, okay? So this are all these quarantine questions. And the other one is a lot of parents have been concerned is, do we have a target date to complete all the outstanding enrollments and provide buses to all the students that we're required to provide the transportation, like 2 miles, 2.5 miles, and we got to address those students first. And roughly how many of those students we're talking about. And the third question, I know the answer, but if you don't mind to reiterate, sure. It's about the water bottle in the classroom. So the 4 questions related to that.
I love that 1 or 2 questions, Mr. Shi. There are always multiple questions, but yeah, you keep me on my toes. I'll try to answer from the reverse up.
Yeah.
And I may ask Dr. Aldarelli to fill in on some of the quarantine issues as he deals with that on a regular basis with our, as the Director of Human Resources. The water bottles are permitted in classrooms. Anybody that has an issue with that, please direct it to the teacher or to the building principal. That is an expectation, especially with not all of our fountains in operation, that water bottles in classroom. We do want our children to be hydrated, so that should be permissible across the board. There were 1 or 2 parents who reached out to me and expressed a concern, and we addressed that individually. But if that is a concern, please talk to your child's teacher or to the building principal. That should be rectified almost immediately. Regarding transportation,
can you give a little history how this happened?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I'm sorry, yeah.
Transportation is extremely frustrating right now. For me, for our principals, for our teachers, and most importantly, for our parents. I am a single parent, and when I had to work and drive my kids to school and figure things out when it didn't go awry, it's very stressful and it's very difficult. And I can appreciate what all of our parents that are in that situation are dealing with right now. A little bit of history on that. We have over 16,000 students in the district, and we transport via about 415 bus routes. 415 routes across a variety of vendors, and we probably transport maybe around 80 or 90 routes internally with our approximately 30 buses and 27 or so drivers who've done a great job in trying to triage as we move forward. So one of the things that happened, which is unusual, unexpected, and again, extremely frustrating for me as the district administrator in charge, is on September 8th. We started school on September 1st. We had the delusional flood on September 2nd. If you remember, we had some flooding in town and in some of our schools, including this room right here. And then we came back to school on Friday, and then we had that weekend, the 5-day weekend, right? We were off for Labor Day as well as the religious holidays. On that Tuesday, September 8th, I got an email, not even a phone call, that from 2 vendors who we had contracts with, who gave us a bond, which is a commitment to honor those contracts, that 51 routes, covering over 700 students, they were just not going to honor that commitment. Now, my initial response was one of measured anger at that group, and me and Rich Benedict, who's been overseeing that department until our new supervisor starts in October, and that's another issue. Our supervisor of transportation left us in July, kind of, pretty quickly, and we've been trying to figure that out since then and cover that, and Mr. Benedict has done a nice job in that. Nonetheless, it was over 700 students that had no transportation, 700 students who were legally obligated to provide transportation because they're entitled to what's called remote transportation, meaning they live either farther than 2 miles from our school as elementary students or 2.5 miles as secondary students. So we've worked really hard to consolidate routes, to reach out to other vendors, to do what we can to get that transportation up and running for those kids that we are legally compelled to provide. And some of those students, while many parents, it's a burden and it's uncomfortable and it creates a hardship for them to transport their students, many of these students don't have that option. And if they can't get a bus to school, they don't come to school. So we've also had our bus drivers and our bus aides and the people that we have internally. Like I said, we have about 27 bus drivers and a fair number of aides that work with them. They've done a great job in trying to triage, adjusting routes, picking up kids when some of the vendors just didn't show up or didn't do what they're supposed to do. So right now, we have about 270 of those students, almost 700 who didn't have transportation that we still have to figure out. And we're still working on it. One of the options we worked on today, Somerset County Ed Services is going to lease us some buses and 54 passenger buses. We don't have as many as we'd like. So some of our drivers that are driving 24 passenger buses will drive 54 passenger buses. That'll alleviate some more. We're hoping to bring this to a full resolution by the end of next week for all those people. We hope to do that, and our people are working really hard to do it. I'm as frustrated as you are, as our administrators are, as our parents are. However, I can't make buses appear out of thin air. I can't make drivers appear. When this settles down and the smoke settles, I'll have a meeting with Mr. Shadanian in his office, and we'll talk about legal ramifications for those people that didn't honor the contracts. But in the immediate time, that wasn't our concern. Our concern was the children and doing our best to get them to school. Once that's settled, we'll go back and revisit some of those subscription applications. And I understand that people sent in checks, they applied for it, and they haven't got that transportation yet. We will then go down that list and do everything we can. We are working as hard as we can to bring this to a closure that's successful for all of our students. Again, I understand the frustration. I understand the hardship for our parents. I'm doing everything I can, and so is our team. And, they should be commended for their efforts. Many come in on the weekends, spend hours trying to reroute the buses and figure out how best we could, mitigate the impact of this bus driver shortage. So that's where we are on that, Mr. Shi. If I can go on to the enrollment issue?
Yeah, I just want to see, can you comment on the meeting before the September with all the, vendors?
Great point. So we don't have a transportation supervisor, and we've hired someone, but they had another job, so they are committed to giving their 60 days notice. And Ms. Gluck and I have been taking over that responsibilities, and Rich Benedict, who usually is in charge of enrollment, has been helping us as well. So about a week and a half before school started, obviously we wanted to double check and make sure everything was on point. We were very anxious about this. We heard there were shortages of bus drivers and things like that. We met via Zoom with every vendor we had, and I asked them the same question as a group and individually. Are you able to honor the commitment that you've given us in the contracts you have been provided? To a fault, everyone said yes. One vendor said, I may have an issue with 1 or 2 drivers, okay? And for us, 1 or 2 drivers is okay because we have our internal drivers that could cover that. So, so imagine my surprise with that email on the 2nd when a week prior we had heard that everything was okay. Thank you for pointing that out, Mr. Chair. Regarding enrollment, I know that's been frustrating as well. We're trying to do some renovations there and make that process more seamless. We've moved to an online enrollment registration process, but obviously that wasn't 100% successful. Because if the online enrollment was successful, we wouldn't have had hundreds of people in the office, on a regular basis the last 2-3 weeks. So we recognize we have to revisit that. We have to debrief after that, what we can do better. You know, I can't make excuses for that. We have to do a better job, and we have to make that online process a little more seamless so it doesn't require as many people to come in. That being said, if you wait till the last minute, there's only so many hours in the day for us to process as many applications as we can. And we had 1,042 students applied for enrollment from August 1st to September 22nd. In September, we had 620 students apply for enrollment. That's a lot to process in a short period of time. And again, it's not an excuse. People get frustrated, but I would encourage everyone in the future that's going to apply to get enrolled in the district, do it as early as you can. This was a unique year. A lot of people waited till the last minute. They weren't sure if there'd be a remote option and things like that, so I understand it. We tried to prepare and have as many people there, but I'll look, you know, this board and the crowd in the face and say we could have done a better job, and we will next year. And you have my word on that. Going back to the other part of your multi-phase question, Mr. Shi.
Quarantine, yes.
Regarding the quarantine and will students have access to their classes remotely, what we would like to do is for students that have to quarantine is their Google Classroom, obviously they would have access to anyway, and leave the cameras running during the day. So if they're up to it, if they're quarantining and not ill, they could watch the lessons and see what's going on. And then at the end of the day, they will receive virtually their virtual supplemental instruction to help them catch up with all the work and give them that one-to-one attention they may need to try to maintain where they are. Regarding the timelines for quarantine, that I would ask Dr. Aldarelli, who's really our expert on that, if you could share a few words on that, Dr. Aldarelli?
Sure, no problem. Thank you, Dr. Bregan. There are many different scenarios with regards to quarantine, but I'll kind of hit the highlights. And one of the things that I do want to share is that, you know, with the support of the building administration, our chief academic officers, and our assistant superintendent, we were able to create a document that should be available on Monday that will be going out via Genesis message for all parents to identify the protocols and process for exclusion from school as a result of being a close contact or testing positive for COVID. So it's going to be a flow chart. It should be easy to understand and read. You know, the document is always fluid as well, too. You know, the criteria and the CDC are constantly changing, you know, the information and with regards to quarantine and travel and all of those things. But to kind of hit the highlights, anytime we are notified of a positive test, the administration and as well as staff who are doing an unbelievable job begin the contact tracing process. Any individual, whether it's a student or an adult that is unvaccinated and is identified as a close contact, needs to quarantine for 14 days. That 14 days is as a result of our county being at the high risk. Other counties do have a lower threshold for that because they don't have as many COVID cases in this particular area. I believe Monmouth and Ocean also fall into that criteria. Any individual that is vaccinated, as long as they are not symptomatic, according to the CDC guidelines and as well as the guidelines from the state of New Jersey, they do not need to quarantine. We are currently providing testing for both students and staff on Tuesdays and Fridays, with the hope of adding an additional day coming in the next few weeks. I think that hit the criteria.
Okay, so we're looking forward to the flow chart. The question is, yeah, can they get a negative test and come back a little earlier? I would assume that's part of the thing in the flow chart.
It's definitely part of that protocol. If you're identified as a close contact of a COVID positive individual, currently right now, because we are in a high risk, there is no opportunity to return. You must serve those 14 days. However, once that threshold lowers, there is a system in place for testing and to lessen that time of quarantine.
Okay.
But all of that information will be updated as well as links to the CDC guidelines as well as information coming from the state.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I just had one question, Doctor.
I have a, okay, yeah, go ahead.
These testing centers, JP and Edison High, right?
Yes.
Okay,
Tuesday and Friday from 2 to 5 p.m., I believe.
great, thank you.
Ms. Conway.
I just have a question.
Sure.
If a person tests positive and they were vaccinated, they still don't have to quarantine?
There is a 90-day time frame off of those pieces. So in other words, if you are identified as a close contact and have had COVID within 90 days, what we usually do in that particular case is we ask them to consult with a healthcare professional. We want to see if they're symptomatic, and we go at it from there. Each situation is unique. unique, and that's what's great about dialoguing with the building principals as well as, you know, the school nurses and the individual itself. You know, it allows us to, number one, err on the side of caution. If somebody is symptomatic and is coughing, we usually err on the side of caution, have them go get a COVID test.
You know, because some people have had the COVID vaccine
Yep.
and have months down the road tested positive for COVID.
So regardless of whether you are vaccinated or not, if you test positive, we treat you as a positive COVID test.
Thank you.
Thank you.
One more question.
Sure.
So right now, when we get a letter that somebody's tested positive,
Yes.
are those parents reported to you, or the school somehow figures it out?
All of the information with regards to contact tracing, what happens is that it's done with multiple levels of staff. Each building has their own process and own point person. In some buildings, it's the building principal or the vice principal. The nurses are involved in this process as well in some of the schools. But what will happen is they will provide the health department as well as myself with the name of the individual that tested positive and any of the close contacts. We coordinate daily with the health department here for Edison, and Jay Elliott has been not only super responsive, but has really guided us through the process with this, and we take our lead from him. And he's been available at all hours of the night.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
I just want to have a follow-up
Sure.
regarding it's not for Dr. Bregan, is we talked about allow the kids to dial into the class, right? So I don't think that policy has been applied across the board, so if we can tell the principals that if the staff can open up the classroom when the class is ongoing, these kids are just watching. It's not engaging, you know, like the old, you know, hybrid. Yeah, can we just make sure that that's the policy applied across the board?
There's nothing more frustrating, Mr. Shi, than when you speak to someone and you give them direction and they don't listen. So I will reiterate that. I had already spoken to our principals about that, but believe me, they will hear it again from me tomorrow.
Thank you. Appreciate that. All right, so we're gonna now let's go through the other board members. I'm gonna go this side. Mrs. White, any
I have
comments?
nothing at this
Okay.
time.
Mrs. Badowski?
Nothing at this time.
Okay. Mrs. Conway?
Nothing at this
Roll
time.
call. Okay. Owen?
Nothing at this time.
All right, I'll go this way. Mrs. Pan? No. Okay. Dr. Chan? No? Okay. Shivi?
Yeah, so I just want to say that I feel really happy that we're able to provide air conditioning at both Edison High as well as JP in the cafeteria and the auditorium. I think it's going to provide a much needed reprieve to the students when it's really, really hot. So thank you for that.
Okay. Bureau?
Okay, so Dr. Bregan, on June 4th, New Jersey State passed a law, Bill A5366 and S3434, allowing that requires Board of Education to extend special education and related services for certain students exceeding age of eligibility for the special needs, right? So it could be a misinformation, but I heard that Edison rejected it. Is that true, or is it misinformation?
I'm not sure what did we reject?
We did not accept that. We have to allow special needs student to one more year of instruction, and state pays for it.
That's totally inaccurate. You got the wrong information, and nor did we
Okay.
reject anything.
Okay, so
It's called the bridge year. It's in the policies that were included in the agenda for now. It is
Okay,
a
so
state
we-
policy. We actually had a case that we were a test case for in the summer, and actually our district is being quoted as someone who is allowing that as a test case. So we did work with our board attorney in that, and our new director, Dr. Thomas Toohey. It's supposed to be done on an individual basis according to the student's needs and whether they, they didn't get all the services they were supposed to get. And if we could provide a program in which we could support that and provide them additional, I don't want to say the word because it's a legal term, but compensatory education for them to catch up. But we are doing that. We never denied it. I don't know where you would have heard
So
that
we are
from.
supporting it, right, basically?
I don't know about that particular legislation, if that's the right code and stuff, but we are allowing and definitely supporting the legislation, and it's known as the bridge year, where students that felt that, and parents that felt they can demonstrate that they didn't get the quality education that they were entitled to because of the COVID-19 impact and they weren't in person, that there's a process in place for them to request those services. And when we go to executive session, some of our updates will be pertaining to that.
Okay. And how many enrollments are pending as of today?
Pending enrollments, I don't have that number off the top of my head. I know that I was down in enrollment today, and there was no one in there waiting. So I guess at this point, all the information's been given, and those that are not yet enrolled, they're being processed and facilitated.
And you said there were 1,044 total new enrollments?
I believe I said 1,042, but I'll double check that number.
1,042 and 600.
And that was from August 1st till September 22nd. 1,042.
Okay. Now, one more thing. Quite a few parents have paid for their subscription busing, but their checks have not been cashed. And some of them did get busing, some of them did not get busing. So what will be the district's plan to sort out those checks, and how long it will take from now to sort out all those pending
Sure.
applications?
Sure. I thought I covered that earlier, but with the transportation loss we had on the September 8th, there was 700 students that were entitled to busing by code and legally obligated to do it. So anyone that submitted a subscription request after that point and were not already placed on a bus, we did get their notification, we did get their checks. They were not deposited, they were not processed. But students that submitted over the summer for subscription busing or prior to that, they were processed, and some of those students were already placed on the bus. So if the students were already placed on the bus, we didn't think, and I had consultation with the board president on this, we didn't think it appropriate to remove them because they were already placed on the bus. But anyone moving forward that had a desire for subscription busing, we have to wait until we get the ones we're legally obligated to provide it for. And then once hopefully that impact gets lessened over time, we will then be able to start going down that subscription busing and providing that service to the people. If anyone is in a financial hardship, though, and needs that money, just let us know, and we'll just rip the check up.
That's all.
I just had a follow-up thing on enrollment.
Yeah.
I just had a suggestion. So just to make it easier for parents who have to kind of just keep standing, just go there, and they don't even know if there are 20 people standing or 100 people standing. If we can have like an online appointment system where people go in, take a ticket and then just go there with that ticket, so that, I take an appointment for 10:30. So I know that maximum I would have to wait is maybe half an hour. So if we can have that kind of a thing, that would be very helpful. And then maybe also have like an hour or something, which is kind of just walk-in, just for emergencies, because some people might not get the appointment and there might be some emergency. So going forward, maybe next year, if we can implement that, that would be awesome.
That makes total sense. And another thing that we talked about with, I think Ms. White and I were talking today, that during those religious holidays, there were 3 days in a row where school was closed. But perhaps that would have been a time we should have kept that open and, had our people come in at that time to help register the students that weren't registered yet, or at least catch up. So we did have people come in and work over the weekend, but to have that as part of our routine and extend those hours in the later months, weeks in the summer may be helpful too.
Mm-hmm.
So yes,
Yeah,
point well taken.
thank you.
Yeah, the online system, when we actually implemented 2 years ago, what they're supposed to be is the parents will register and upload all the information. So the next step is for our staff to reach out and schedule an appointment. That was the original implementation of that. I don't know what happened this year. So as you said, once all the dust settles, we're gonna go look into both of this, the enrollment and the transportation issue.
I think we did schedule and we did try to do that, but sometimes, I get it, I'm a parent, and you didn't get the response or you didn't get the feedback right away, hey, let me go see what's going on.
Yeah.
And so there are some systematic changes we need to make that'll make it better. No doubt we will improve that.
Okay. Any other board member comments? You good?
Yeah. Hey, Pat, is it possible for you to turn the speaker just a little bit this way so we can have less of an echo and we can hear it? Perfect, thank you.
That's much better.
Okay. All right, now we're going to open for public comments. And wait, I see we have students here, so I'll let the students go first, because you guys need to go to class tomorrow, right? So once you finish your question, you can feel free to go home, right? So any of the kids, you wanna come first? together? That's, okay.
We'll go one by one. Let's see how it is.
Okay.
But,
All right, glad to see you guys anyway.
yeah, so I am a junior in this school, so JP Stevens. My name is Suraj Patel. So I like how you guys are doing everything with air conditioning, all that stuff. That's definitely needed. My only suggestion, I see transportation too is also a very big problem, so I think you guys are doing good on that. Also, I would start to put some emphasis or suggestion on expanding the cafeteria. So I was here for 9th grade in person, right, pre-COVID terms, and the environment in the cafeteria is the same as it was before and now. In the sense of saying people take off their masks, roam around in the cafeteria, so there's still no sense of social distancing. Now, the cafeteria is extremely populated. I know that we've added some section of our school, we added, I think, 4 or 5 different tables, so they can have more people to add, but and it hasn't made a lot of impact. Now, people are talking, eating, and there's not that much room between people, literally 2 centimeters from my personal experience. You can ask my friends here after, but there's not that much room. And there's only 2 centimeters. I sit at one of the circle tables here, not one of the long ones. There's not that much space, so I want something that if we can expand the cafeteria in any sort of way, maybe taking out something that's not necessary, that's definitely one of my priorities. Also, there's very big lines for trying to get food, especially pizza. That's definitely something. It goes all the way to the back. I know definitely that they changed the actual seating of the rows of the tables so that instead of going horizontally, they change it vertically so everyone can just go straight down. But also just mainly that the social distancing. Actually, if I'm being really honest with you, we social distance more in the classroom than actual cafeteria, which is, I don't think that's necessary because we take off our masks, we're talking, if you talk loudly, you start spitting on the other person, and then there's no point of the mask, right? In a sense, also in the hall is very jam-packed. There's no space for anything like that. At some point, at some areas where people are trying to go upstairs, people are trying to come downstairs, people are trying to go straight. It's technically a 3-way intersection. People are stopping, waiting, talking, and there's people coming into their lockers. There's so much space. There's not that much space. So definitely that. But my emphasis in total is just, expand that cafeteria, make sure that, if we could apply some pre-COVID rules, in a sense of we have to wear a mask regardless of, if we're on the table, you can take off your mask, but if you walk off that table, you have to wear your mask. Maybe that's fine. But yeah, I think that is mine. We can also talk about, I'm not sure, this is my one question, why we cannot use fans in the classroom. My only fact is that fans actually help circulate air. It gets way too hot. I know you guys are working on the air conditioning thing, which is superb, but the fans, I think there's one claim, maybe I'm not sure if I'm wrong, or it spreads germs or something like that. Is that what you guys thought? But the fact that it also circulates air, it gets way too hot. Because even wearing shorts as a guy, it still gets very extremely hot because there's so many people. So definitely I want to, something about that. And also want some more opportunities for being able to pursue some other stuff in college. For example, I'm going into that AP ComSci field, right? But many people I know that want to do something about nursing or something like that. They want more opportunities for that in school. They want to see that, that change, or I can be able to pick something that's related to something I want to do in college and something I want to do as my own job. So that's something like that. Lastly, I won't take up too much of your time, but I asked many of my friends today and teachers that they want to be able to be chosen, they want to choose what AP they want to be in a sense of not being able to be placed in that specific spot. So they can still take the AP test, they can still take all that stuff, but they want to have the chance to be placed in AP. So not get in it, but I know there's all that prerequisite stuff like that, I know that. But they also want to be able to have the opportunity to be in an AP course, to see how it feels, to see how if they like it or not. And yeah, my only main emphasis is that you guys, I think, already hit that topic, was air conditioning and transportation, which I love. I have no additional questions or comments, so I think I'll see if my friends want anything on that.
Okay.
Oh, 2 minutes? Okay. Do you guys?
Can we get the timer on the big screen, or it's a connection? Oh, okay, the Wi-Fi. Oh, they have it there, okay. Okay, yeah, you have another 6 minutes, you could, yeah,
All
go
right,
ahead.
thank you. I'll be pretty quick because
No,
I'm
that's
just.
fine, take your time. You
Okay,
got 6 minutes, no
thank
need to rush, take your
Yeah,
time.
appreciate it.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna emphasize the same points that my friend made. So you guys already touched on air conditioning, which is great. I think that's gonna be a great change. And the reason so is because there's like he said, there's no circulation plus the overcrowding, which already makes it rough. And on top of that, this year, because of COVID, the masks make it really rough. So you guys did mention auditorium and cafeteria, and I think that's great because these two are like the most crowded rooms. But in like certain hallways, if there could be air conditioning, that would be great too. Because for example, I think it's upstairs, the B wing. I'm pretty sure not every room has air conditioning, but there is a good amount of air circulation to the point where if you go there, it actually feels normal. Like today, it was a pretty good day. I would also, just like he said, transportation. Obviously the buses, that's like something you guys are like already figuring out and stuff. I would just touch on like the fact that there's no there is entry points, but there's also a lot of like, for example, like the junior lot is closed. So like that makes kids that during dismissal, like we have to go to the library instead of just going to the front. Like it's just very overcrowded, and I'm pretty sure that's something everyone realizes and everyone can agree on. Other than that, I would just emphasize the air conditioning, and I think that would genuinely make a great change because the kids would obviously like be more productive instead of dreading like coming to school. Like they would be more relieved that there is air conditioning and they won't have to worry about that. And I think that's the main 2 points I wanted to make. So that's good for me.
Okay, you want to, that's a couple of those?
Sure.
Yeah.
First, I want to thank all of you for coming and representing the student body and coming and speaking your mind. It's not easy for students to do, so we do appreciate getting that feedback. Some of the things, as you said, we're well aware of, like the transportation and the AC issues, and we're doing the best we can with that. Cafeteria, I know it's crowded, it's tight. We added a little extra space to spread it out. In the short run, we'll talk to the building administration about trying to enforce the mask being worn when the kids are out and about and not actually sitting and eating. We'll do what we can with that. We also had tents last year. They're not huge, but they offer a little bit of extra space to go outside, right? And you're protected from the sun and possible rain. When we went to reorder those tents this year, they were about twice as much money. So rather than just do that and pay the extra money, which in some ways feels like we're being extorted to some degree, it's on the agenda tonight. We have a bid out for tents in each of the schools, and that's supposed to be open the 24th, I believe, right? So hopefully we'll be able to get that set up too and at least provide a little extra space. It's not a lot, but it's a little bit. I know when we switched over from Chartwell's to Maschio's, they tried to hire all the employees that were here, but there has been some shortages. And we recognize that John P. Stevens High School and some of our other schools, there's some shortages of staff. And that may be one of the reasons we don't have as many lines operating as we need to. We have to fix that. We already have a meeting scheduled with the food service provider to try to make sure the food distribution at lunch and at breakfast is the most efficient and optimal so students don't have to wait too long. I know the lunch period is very short at secondary. You don't want to get your food and have to eat it in 2-3 minutes. That's just not appropriate, right? So we're looking at all that. Two things you said that I think is interesting, having nursing and other like tracks, career tracks for students. Our administration, along with the high school administrations and guidance from both high schools, are working closely with Middlesex College to try to provide those alternate pathways to get students a heads up on maybe a nursing career, right, or another technical field, and have those joint classes that could either be at the high school or at the high school and at Middlesex College. So that's something we're really excited about, and we do recognize that should be explored to cover all of our students. The other thing was the advanced placement courses, and that's been a core of what I spoke about since I've been here, as well as our administrative team. I know it comes up at our curriculum and technology committee. about casting a wider net and making more availability to a wider berth of students for our advanced placement courses. So it's good for me to hear what we're thinking we need to do is what you think we need to do, so at least we're on the same page there. The one thing about the fans, I can understand it, and we've had requests for fans from students, from staff as well. The CDC guidance that I'm aware of, and what I say is this virus, this COVID-19 virus, is an aerosol virus, right? It's spread in the air. It doesn't live long on surfaces. It's not really something that you could get from touching, but you get it from the air. And unless you had one of those window fans that I had as a child in my apartment in Jersey City that has a little round fan that blows air out and one that blows it in, you kids probably don't remember that, but you used to be able to put it in a traditional window. A fan in the classroom is going to spread the air across everybody's face, whether you're wearing a mask or not. It's not the most effective way to try to, reduce the impact and effects of the virus if it is in that classroom. So that's why we haven't allowed those. I get it. I get your frustration. My fingers are crossed for hopefully the warm weather will abate soon, and at least we won't have to worry about that until the spring, and hopefully we'll be in a better place with the virus at that point. But hey, I applaud your comments. Thank you for coming and sharing that. I really do appreciate it. I don't know what else. Oh, I missed the, you want to talk about the potential addition here and all that?
Yeah, talk.
The overcrowding at John P. Stevens High School, I was the vice principal here, I want to say in 2003 or 4, I don't really remember what year it was. We were crowded then, and we were 400 students less than you have now, so I get it. The crowding is real in the hallways, the crowding is real in the cafeteria, but the Board of Education, as you know, they've been committed before I got here to trying to address that. 2 failed referenda to try to get some additional building space and put that in. I know the current board and the Finance and Facility Committee meeting, we've actually gone to other schools, we've done tours. We had a meeting last week that we talked about in addition to this school, so we get it, we get the problem, and we're trying to address it as quickly as we can. Without the referendum, there are other options, but they're different options, so we have to redesign it and come up with another plan, but from what I see, our Board of Education is committed to doing that, and we're working on it.
Yeah, just, I don't know if you can have a little bit of relief on that. We talked about air conditioning in the auditorium and cafeteria for Edison High. And for JP, we're doing AC for the cafeteria, right? And because this auditorium, there's other purposes for this, so we don't want to do it and then redo it, right? So when we talk at the Finance Facility Committee, the AC for the cafeteria, the target is spring. Is that correct?
Correct.
Yes. So hope, towards the end of the school year, at least in the cafeteria, there are some cool places that will provide some relief. It is coming, but we're doing one step at a time. Okay. So 3 kids, 2 kids came over. The other kid, do you have any questions? Okay, cool. So I see a parent in the back with a baby. Do you have any question? You want to go first so that the kid can go home early? You good? Oh, okay. All right, okay.
For the students, thank you guys for coming out tonight, and we greatly appreciate it, and we should see more of this kind of interaction from you guys. And if you're free to go home at this moment if you want to, so you could get ready for school tomorrow.
Yeah, the other thing is that what we could do is they had some suggestions about how the lines, oriented and stuff. Maybe we can just visit during one of the lunchtime and take a look at it, see if there's anything that we can do to help alleviate some of the, the logistics over there.
100%.
Okay. Yeah, we have a lady in the middle. Mm-hmm. Yes, yeah, go ahead.
Thank you, everyone, for your time and effort, and especially during these hard times that we have. So, I have a couple of questions. First, like those 2 bus vendors that you mentioned, those that broke contract, are there any legal actions that our education department is taking? And if so, what is it?
Okay.
That's number 1, because it's a legal contract, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there should be some actions to be taken.
Yes.
Because it's very hard for all the parents that are facing this issue. I'm sure you are one of them, so that's number 1. Number 2 is, Can parents get a weekly update of what actions are being taken on this busing issue? That way we know that what timeline we are looking at and how long are we going to do this, because everyone is working from home, these days, and dropping off and picking up kids, people are even going to work, and it's very messy for everyone. Okay, so we would like to have weekly updates, and I would like to know what is the timeline that we are looking at and how long are parents expected to drop and pick up their kids, even though they have busing available. Okay, number 3, I heard about a flow chart that someone the flow chart being prepared on the quarantine based on case-by-case basis. Now, COVID is not new. I believe this needed to be done over the vacation period when it was already decided that there was no remote plan or no hybrid option was going to be offered. So this plan, this flow chart should have been done then. COVID is not new. Again, I would like to repeat. We had whole vacation period, and we knew that there was no hybrid plan going to be offered, right? So this flow chart should be done beforehand. And now it's such a mess because I feel like it's so unclear for parents and even more on kids. They are afraid to lose 14 days of instructions just because they came in close contact with a person who was COVID positive, which is not their fault. It's like a punishment for them, right? So I would like to know the answer of this flowchart as soon as possible, so kids are at ease and so will be the parents. And last, again, like those kids of J.P. Stevens mentioned, overcrowding is a long known issue. And like Dr. Bregan mentioned, he was a vice principal in 2003 or 4, right? So as you are well aware of it, I am so afraid to put my daughter here, next year. She's an 8th grader right now. And overcrowding is even more important now because we need social distancing, right? So again, I would like to know if there is a timeline to when we are getting a new high school. That's the only option I see. What is the timeline that we have? I've been hearing of overcrowding issues since I came to Edison. It's been 8 years. I put my daughter in kindergarten. Since then, I'm hearing what's being done. Thank you, everyone.
Okay.
Plus
I'll
time.
try to work those in reverse. As I said, the board and the Finance and Facility Committee meeting is working hard to address the overcrowding issues. And having 2 failed referendum in the last, 18 months or so, that put us behind a little bit. Had those passed, we would be in the construction phases right now, but that's the past. It didn't happen, so we're adjusting, adapting, overcoming, and trying to come up with different plans. The one we did talk about was a 3rd high school, and we didn't necessarily put that option on the plate of what that exactly would be. Would it be more towards vocational or whatever? We were in discussions about that. We were in discussions about the potential property in the middle of town, but it's not our property. And as of right now, the person who owns it or the company who owns it, they haven't been forthcoming in trying to move it forward despite our conversations. So we're looking at all options. The board is committed to doing it. As I said, as recently as the Finance and Facility Committee meeting last week, there are plans in place for this high school here to help ease that overcrowding, put it to bring that to fruition and do what we can for that. But I don't want to speak to that because if it's not fleshed out, it hasn't even been shared with the full board, so I can't really comment on that, but we're working on it. Regarding, we knew we were coming back in, unless the governor made any change in position from June, that there wouldn't be a hybrid option and we would be fully in person. There's been no change in the guidance. That's been forthcoming on the website. It's there. It's been there. The Road Forward was published in June 26th, I believe. That link is on our website. It provides the exact guidance on what we would do for social distancing, what our parameters are for close contacts. So that's there. What Dr. Aldarelli was referencing was he's putting together an infographic to make it easier for people to digest and easily read. But in no way should that be an assumption that there should be any confusion. Our principals are well aware of what the expectations are. The CDC guidance is not only on our website, it's on their website. And each individual case, depending on the particular circumstances and where the suspected contact or exposure took place, has to be reviewed for its merits. And Dr. Aldarelli, with his team in human resources, as well as Mr. J. Elliott from the Edison Department of Health and the principals and the teachers involved. That's how we make that decision. But I think that's a misperception that somehow we're not prepared. The guidance is out there. It's been out there. It's on our website. He was referencing a flow chart that he wants to just put together so that people could more easily follow some type of logic model in regarding, yes, no, and this is what we do for those options. Okay, regarding updates on, what we're doing to try to go over the busing, I could give that, and I could share that with everybody. I think I said in the beginning, there were 700 students that were entitled to transportation that weren't provided on September 9th. Today's September 23rd, I believe, and our plan is, and we're down to 300 students we can't transport that we have to right now. Our goal is by the end of next week. And I think I did mention some of the things that we're doing. We're trying to take routes that have not full buses, combine them, but that's not easy. Just because a bus has 20 students and another one has 20 students doesn't mean I can combine them and have a bus of 40, because they may cover an area that's going to take an hour to do, especially with the traffic in this town. So it's not as quick as, hey, I take these ones, I combine them, then I have another bus for that. And our people are doing all they can to do that. We're also seeking to rent buses from Somerset Ed Service Commission, potentially 8 buses. And we still don't have drivers, but many of our buses are 24 passenger, not 54. So that could double their capacity, but we have to plan that. We can't just say, okay, go now pick up 24 more other students, because it has to be coordinated and they have to be somewhat rerouted. So that takes time, and I know it's frustrating. Our goal is to have that totally corrected by the end of next week. And if I'm a parent and it's impacting me, that's too long. I get it. It's too long. One day is too long. You have a job, your husband, your wife, or both spouses are working. You got to make arrangements with family members. You got to tax all your resources. Trust me, I was a single dad. I get it. It's difficult. We're doing all we can, and it's as frustrating for me as it is for you. I don't have the buses right now, and I don't have the drivers, and I don't know where to find them. We're making inroads, like I said. We have a deal putting in place to rent some buses. I haven't even shared that with the board yet, because it happened in real time, a couple hours before the meeting today. But we're doing everything we can, and the resources are scarce, okay? Regarding the legal actions, I'm not an attorney, and I don't want to try to portray one, but my conversation with both owners of those companies was, I'll see you in court. We're going to take legal action. They do have a bond, they do have a contract, there is a commitment, and we are going to take legal action. But in the short time since we found out, I thought my resources and our resources will be best utilized in trying to correct the problem and then seek a legal remedy afterwards. And I don't know, John, if you want to add anything to that. We didn't really talk specifically about it, but I did talk with your partner a little bit, Mr. Rupp.
Yeah, I mean, we have not had a full discussion with the administration, but there's certainly a contract, as Dr. Bregan indicated. There's a bond, and any and all legal remedies that the board has at its availability, we're going to take to seek recompense from the bus companies. That doesn't make any parents happier about not having their buses. That doesn't make the students get to school any easier, but from the legal side, that's what we do. So we will get the district's pound of flesh back as best we can.
Okay, yeah, as I said, I spoke to Dr. Brigham almost daily on this, and we felt that right now the priority is to get the kids on the bus first. Then we're going to deal with the legal issues a little bit later. That's most important, get them on the bus and get them in school on time, okay? All right, so, Maria.
Hi, thank you. Maria Orchid, 83 Jefferson. Yes, my first question was the crowds at lunchtime. It makes it very hard to have lunch for 20 minutes. Someone was asking about the outside tents, so I do hope that you could get those exponentially. My other question, how's the esports going?
Well, did your son update you at the high school?
I wanted to hear you say it.
There. We're supposed to wait till she's done,
Oh,
Mr. Shi, right?
should I do all my questions? Okay.
Yeah.
ROTC. I see the Army comes in at lunchtime and talks to our students. What a shame we can't have ROTC here in Edison. That would benefit the students and the leadership and give them the skills that when they do sign up, if it is the Army, they have those leadership skills already in place. We're doing them a disservice. How's the overcrowding update? Sidewalk repair on Preston Street. Some of the sidewalk is missing or is just dirt. And that corner near Hector, or Hecton Avenue is very dangerous. So if you could have somebody take a look at it, I'd appreciate it.
Preston and Hector, is it?
Yeah, by Edison High on the other side.
Okay.
I'd like to invite everybody to the Fall Family Spectacular on Saturday, Amboy Avenue, from 11 a.m. to 11 p.m. Please come and stop by the Sustainable Green Team table. We're looking for students, volunteers who are interested in our environment. So I look forward to seeing everybody there. And also last, thank you for everyone who volunteered at the boat basin. We had over 100 volunteers. They made such a difference. It's a lot of work, and it makes a big improvement. Some of the stuff that had happened was due to the last two storms, tropical storms that came through. Also, that it has to be maintained. So it was 100 volunteers, and we'd like to say thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Maria. I'll answer those questions as best I can. The esports arena is set up at Edison High School. The infrastructure is all in place. We did have a problem due to technology, shortage of chips or whatever. I don't really know the technical words, but they didn't get all the equipment. And we're still waiting on that as far as I understand, but I know there's interest with the children, and we can't wait to get that up and running. And I'm sure you'll let me know when it is, and we're looking forward to that. I think it's an exciting addition to our school. The ROTC, I will follow up again, but that's not in our hands. We made the request to the military. They have to allow us to do it. I don't know what their parameters are. I don't know how many they do within each area, but you know, I know this Board of Education and myself and our team, you know, we support the military, obviously, so if we can do that, we will definitely do that. And the recruiters, I don't think it's just the Army. I think all the armed services come, you know, during the lunch times and have availability to, you know, share what a life in the military may be for some of our students. Preston Street, I'll take a look at that. I'm aware of Preston Street. There's a sidewalk on Preston Street, not on the school side. Yeah, I don't know if the sidewalk on the other side is anything with, that we could do anything with that from the school. I think it's the town, but I'll take a look at that. And then the overcrowding, I agree with you. We're doing the best we can on that, and we're doing all we can as quickly as we can. Lunch is an issue, and Mr. Shee mentioned, you know, I should visit the lunches and check it out. We did go to almost all the schools during lunchtime, but one I was at on the first couple of days of school was Edison High School, and it did take longer than it was supposed to, and they were short a couple of personnel there due to staffing issues and not being able to find employees. So they were directed, our Mascios group, to bring some of the people from the elementary schools, because the two high schools are where we have the greatest number of students that we have to get their food, sit down, eat, and get out of there in 20 minutes or so. So we're working on that too, though.
Yeah, I think, you know, the short of staff is one of the big concerns. I think Marshall's made some progress on that. If by recollection is still correct, I think they're still short about 12 to 15. And so if anyone here knows that anyone's interested in applying for a job, they're looking for it. I think their ad is all over the place. Just the current environment is a little bit tough. So are we still short of lunch aid as well?
We could always use more lunch aids, and we also are in dire need of, and we're going to help promote it with the police department, any crossing guards. You know, we're going to have an informational meeting about that on October 1st to try to get as many people interested. You know, it's a block of time in the morning and the afternoon, and it's a vital part of our overall safety in the community, and we have a shortage of people for a variety of reasons, but again, that's the topic of another day's discussion. We want to try to get people to fill those positions, so we're going to work on that too. And I do think, if I remember correctly, the Civil Air Patrol is actually in this building as a recruitment thing. So, not the ROTC, but the Civil Air Patrol.
Yeah. Okay, back.
Good evening, everyone. I think, Jerry, it's good to see those students that come out. I think you guys need to appreciate and recognize and reward those people. I think it would be wonderful to see many students coming and talking about their own problems rather than the political employees coming here and bitching about it. I think let's talk about, I thought of talking in my group, there are a lot of parents talking about transportation issues or talking about enrollment. I think it's not an issue alone in Edison. I think Dr. Bregan has extensively prepared and actually answered, and we understand the situation. But I think first come first, Dr. Bregan, you and I had some differences in the past, but I salute you or hats off to you for kicking that coffin out, no matter what happens. We truly, truly appreciate it. I don't know how many people recognized it. I think on the social media and WhatsApp groups, you are a hero.
Thank you.
Only in this case. Sorry for that other things. Okay?
That's fine.
I think that video had 4 million viewers.
Yeah. The second thing is to talk about the food. My daughter said from the elementary school, it was not that great, and the pizza was fresh, sauce was great. There were, sandwiches and all the other stuff. But only thing, Mr. Jerry, that I would like to ask the food vendor to consider is, he's giving only 2-3 days water bottles. I don't want my kid to have the juices. So I appreciate if the water bottles can be available all 5 days rather than having only stock is there only for 3 days. So I think it's cheaper for them, and I think it's easy to do it. Yes. I appreciate that. And number 3, I don't know whether it's a solution or not, but Dr. Reagan, if you see, there are only 4% of the people are not having buses out of 17,000. I am one of the parent who is going to be at home till January, willing to give up my transportation of my daughter. If you really do a survey, if there are 600 parents out of 17,000 students, parents are willing to give up their bus, maybe there is a solution lies there. I don't want everybody to get it. At least those parents who are in a desperate need should be accommodated. I know that there will be any discrimination lawsuits against down the line that picking up, but I'm willing to give up my school bus for the next 2 marking periods. Maybe there are other parents that are willing to do it. Maybe that survey would help to solve one problem. I don't know. It has some legal complications. Please check it out, but that is one solution. I think I didn't want to talk about politics, but considering the unemployees, those who couldn't win the elections, they came here, they wanted nomination posts in the zoning board or library board. They talk big terms over here. But let's talk about the issues. I wanted to ask a couple of things to Dr. Bregan through chair, and a couple of items to Mr. Viral through the chair. It can be answered, doesn't need to be answered. Dr. Bregan, I have seen the last video that one of the board member, Viral Patel, said that he was getting hundreds of calls, he was helping hundreds of people. Did you get those emails in a consolidated way, or did you get those 100 emails? Or did you go to your employees directly? I think as per NJSA rules, a BOE member should never go to the employees, should not interfere in the operations. He should only be a legislative body in the policy creation and guidances. The second thing that Dr. Bregan, that he was there at the enrollment center. Does it show that our Edison enrollment team is not working and the Edison transportation team is not working? Did you give your permission for him to be there helping people? I think the queue and the priority is important, and I hope you didn't give your permission for him to be there at the enrollment center. I think the next question to Mr. Biral. I agree that you are helping the parents. We all appreciate that. I wish and hope that you could have put those frequently asked questions, nice thing to do, better things to do on the Facebook, because you're good at marketing. You're good at actually reaching out on Facebook and WhatsApp. You could have created a document that these are the list of items that parents should do it, so that you don't need to do the job of BOE people. That is my question number 1. The second question is, you said that there was no meeting was conducted by the transportation department. I think it is true shame, because you've been member of that committee. Did you formally ask UNA that we need to convene, you need to have a meeting. Did you ask that formally? Or you could ask for a meeting, or you could actually push that. If that happened and you still asked and didn't happen, then I think I would ask Mr. Shi to look into that. And number 3 is that you said that you are doing good work, not denying it. That's why I supported you as well. You said that your fellow board members, and you also accused administration, including Bregan and other his team, that they are causing the roadblocks. Do you mind sharing those roadblocks to the public? Because I truly wanted to know this. To me, at this moment, the only single person, I don't want to deviate politics, other than David Tingle, I'm not committed to vote for anybody, because I wanted to see the roadblocks that your fellow board members and administration created for you while you're doing the good. If they are causing the roadblocks, we are always there to actually question the entire board. Can you please detail or share a couple of examples? Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, you want
May I
to
answer
address a
some of
couple of those questions? Yes, 2 questions for you.
Venkat, I appreciate your support on that coughing dumping fiasco. You may have seen it, you may not have seen it as a public, but there was a local protest from a local association that had a coffin at our elementary school, and after repeated opportunities and inquiries to a variety of resources to ask them to remove it before the children came to school, I took the law into my own hands, so to speak, and I took it down myself. So I don't know if that was the right thing to do or the wrong thing to do, but they haven't been back since to do that type of protest in front of children. The other thing, Venkat, your transportation question is a good one. It's something we got to look at as long-term. I didn't mention this earlier. We talked about it at our Finance and Facilities Committee meeting too, but another long-term solution for us is to purchase buses on an annual basis, a number of buses each year, so that we will not be held to the whims of different vendors. And at some point, I think a survey was done and they looked into doing that, and it was cost prohibitive. That's no longer the case. The supply and demand has significantly shifted, and for lack of a better word, we're being exploited on the charges we're being charged now to transport students that we have to fill in those needs. And it is what it is, but if we had our own buses and our own fleet of drivers, we'd have a lot more flexibility to deal with that. I'm thinking that's all I had. Regarding the issues with, I don't want to comment on any individual board members, but we've had discussions as a board, and I tell everyone if a parent or a staff member makes an inquiry to you about a particular issue, concern, whatever that is, transportation, enrollment, instruction, me, I encourage you to tell that person to contact myself directly, if not our administrative team, because that is the right course of action. And not getting into specifics, I wouldn't encourage any board member to directly interact in the buildings or to take ownership and or take the authority to put forth any efforts where you directly interact with staff, because that is a violation.
Okay. You want to answer any questions or no?
Yes, so while I am always available to address an issue any parent is having regarding their child, I think the personal or private matters should be addressed in a way so that we maintain the dignity and sanctity of this forum. And I will not be wasting anyone's time to address the political issues, because this has been a pattern now. Coming here because of the election time, coming here and making personal attacks, looking at the last meeting video and attacking a person, attacking a board member. This is nothing short of typical Edison politics. I am not getting into this vicious cycle of answering those questions. I do great work for the community and my work speaks for itself. The personal attacks are not worth responding to and are a reflection of lack of character, and so I will refrain from lowering myself into such discussions. But that being said, one thing I would really appreciate, I really appreciate one thing, is the FAQ part. That's a very good suggestion. I really like that. So I will definitely take that into account, because I'm trying to improve upon myself. I'm not perfect. I make a lot of mistakes, but the FAQ part is really very, very good suggestion, and that should be done. So I thank you for that.
Okay. The gentleman in the back, a T-shirt and with a, no, the other one. No, you. Behind, no, the one before you. He's new. Yeah, him, yes. He's a new one, so I'll let him go first.
Thank you for the time. First, I'd like to thank you for renovating the auditorium. I graduated
name,
from J.P.
please.
Stephen myself.
Name.
My name's Tim Tan, 96 Monroe Avenue. So thank you very much for that. I graduated from here as well. It's being due. So I do have a quite different problem with transportation. We do have the bus coming, but it's inconsistent. So every morning, all of the parents in our route actually inform each other when the bus arrived and where is the direction of the bus going to, because occasionally they miss stops. Sometimes it's missing the first stop, sometimes it's missing somewhere in the middle, and it's a complete different problem coming back. Like today, for example, the stops were not made in where they were supposed to be made. And then there were multiple places where the kids were let off and having to walk in the rain to where they were supposed to be dropped. And I was told by all the various points and the parents that they were all the same drivers all these time. So we were baffled as to why the stops weren't consistent. And I believe they do have a list of all the stops, but I don't think they have a route or somewhere to indicate how to best get there, basically. So as time is lost in the transportation, the bus driver would just try to make the quickest route and get everybody off as fast as she can. So I'm not sure if there's any other way to address that immediately yet, but I'm sure you're working very hard to address all of the transportation issues to provide the transportation first. But once you get through that, maybe we can make the process better for making all the supposed to be stops and dropping the kids off or picking up the students correctly. Thank you very much for the time.
Do you happen to have the route number?
Yeah, WW1, Woodrow Wilson 1.
WW1.
Got it.
Thank
you. Thank you very much. We're definitely going to look into it. The bus is coming, and they do have a specific stops, so we're definitely going to look into it. Yes, Crystal. Thank you. You got to watch your time, all right? Watch my time? Yeah, it's over there. That one's not working.
Let him go. Manesh Patel, 240 Wallman Avenue. Can I ask you, Mr. Bragan, how long you been doing the superintendent's job?
In Edison Town? What?
Yes, sir.
You want to wait till
Yeah, wait till the, yeah. It's not that long.
Can you please answer me? Because I have a question that's particularly for J.P. Stevens High School. That is why. Please, sir, my humble request, answer how many years you've been here.
2 years.
Thank you. Then I will not be pounding on your head, but then I'll go for Jerry. Jerry, you and I being a parents of this school, am I right? Do you know how many kids are in music class?
Yes, I do.
Do you?
Not now, but
Okay.
I know before.
What is the usual number?
180 something in the band.
Thank you, sir. How many is in Edison Township School, Edison School?
Edison High School?
Yes, sir.
I don't know what it is now. Their number is a little bit lesser.
It's
than
60,
Edison.
sir.
Yes.
It's 60.
It's a little bit lesser, yes.
The ratio is 1 to 3.
Yeah.
Moin, you stay out of this for now. The ratio is 1 to 3, sir. But when we're giving them money, you are giving 10,000 to each school for the music class. Sir, that ratio needs to change. And I told you this 7 years ago. And at that time, when I caught the superintendent, they got extra 10,000. After that, they never got it. So please, correct that issue. Now, question number 2. Transportation. It's been a wacko since years. And I'll tell you this honestly. My 3 kids were in there. Every time, bus driver drop them off different places when they were little. So middle school and high school, I personally brought them here. So please do take care of that. I'm also on the same thing as where Venkat is. And all the groups have same issues. Little kids, I'm talking about kindergartens, intermediate and middle school kids are dropped off at the wrong spot, sir. This is a serious issue. One kid got lost, and you guys gonna have a head One of the principals did it 7 years back, because I was the one who found the kid on Grove Avenue walking alone in a 0-degree temperature. All right? So let's stop that issue. You guys need to tell a driver, make sure the right kid drops off at the right place. If you need it, I'll buy you as many hello cards as you need. Put the damn stop on the kid. This is where he drops off. But if you need to drop off the child where he belongs. The third issue. You are saying, somebody just said, my previous speaker, Bill cannot be there. How many rest of you went there? Do you realize he's a single parent? He realized what the issue is. At least he goes there. Any of you did, especially you, Dr. Brackett. Have you been there? Any school? Exception the one who was protesting. That's where you went and you kicked the damn thing off. Salute to you, sir. That you did. But have you went to see where the kids have problems, where the parents have problems? When I had a problem, I used to go to my principal. But right now, the principal have their heads underwater already with other issues that they got in their class. I think, you know what? All of you should take 2 hours, go late to work, and at least go to the school and say hello. Tell us your problems. We'll love you for that. As a parent, I just got out of J.P. Stephen as a parent, so I'm alumni here. But today I do still talk to my teachers, and I know what their problem is. And Jerry, she knows this goddamn problem. For 7 years, haven't done shit. All right?
Watch your language.
He's allowed to curse. Watch your mouth. It's his time. It's a decorum.
It's a forum. I apologize if I curse, but that's what's going to come out. Jerry, you and I being a parent, and you can't do a damn thing about it for 7 years? That this school pays for it? The Edison Township gets $10,000, that's $30 a kid. But this school gets $10. Isn't that racism? Isn't that where you are neglected in your work? You're too busy looking at what the other superintendent did. Oh, she didn't send me an email, and you fired her at that time, and you voted for that, but you don't have time to find this shit?
Again, watch your language.
You could watch all. Jerry, don't get me there, because I'll go where you don't need to go.
Is that a threat?
You as the chair, you could not have probably done when you were sitting at the rest of the board's position, but as a president, it's your fiduciary duty to remember the goddamn school that put your kids through it. Each teacher paid hard time, their money to put your child to the best education in JP.
Your time's up, sir.
I'll come back. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah.
Well, one thing, sir, I do say, I can appreciate your passion for this school. We feel the same way, and your passion for your children, so kudos for that. I would also ask if there's any inequities or deficits in funding for programs that have a large number of children participating. Have the staff reach out to me. I have not had anyone from the music department in this building ask me for more supplies. They haven't done it. Had they did, I would go to the board and see if we could do it. And, you know, I don't believe everything has to be equal to be fair, right? As you said, if one program, and I'm trusting those numbers because I don't know them off the top of my head, but if one program has 60 students participating and another one has 180, and they do things like events and go to different places and competitions and stuff like that, well, or just the fact that they may need more instruments, on the surface, not knowing any of the intricacies of what their needs are, I would say that one that has the more kids needs more money. But it's never been presented to me, so if you know anyone or they've asked you about it, have them reach out to their administrator and they could forward that. The transportation, we're doing the best we can, and I do understand what you're saying about bus stops and all that. I take it very serious, and I tell everyone when we talk to them and when we hire people, the parents of this community are entrusting us with their most valuable asset. The most important thing in their life is their child. And they're giving us almost 17,000 of them every day. I take it very seriously that at a minimum, my job and all of our jobs of everyone that works here is to make sure their safety and well-being is taken care of and they arrive home safe and secure. On the other end, hopefully they're arriving home academically and emotionally and everything enriched as well. So you have my commitment that we will do everything we can to make sure they don't get dropped off at the wrong bus stops and things like that. This has been a tough year. I can't speak to the past. I can't go back in time. If I did, I would probably pick my 20s and not this time, but that's another story. You asked a question and I'm going to answer. Have I been to every school? I go to every school on a regular basis for a variety of reasons. But one is I'm committed to supporting our staff and our educators here, and also for getting information. You know, if you live in the ivory tower, you don't know what's going on in the buildings. So I've been in every building, many of these buildings more than once for this year, and that's not because that's any great achievement, because that's my job. The kids and the teachers are where the rubber meets the road. It's not at the Ed Center at 312 Pearson Avenue. So, and I find that I really enjoy visiting classrooms and seeing the children and our teacher interactions and all the great things that take place. It also gives me an opportunity to see the buildings. So when we talk about this auditorium and its need for renovation, and you can see today we have pumping issues and flooding issues, things need to be addressed. And you don't always see that unless you're out in the buildings. So I think I hit on all those, Mr. Shea.
Okay. So just to say I don't care about this school, that is inaccurate. Okay. The musical program is very dear to my heart. Both my kids went through the program. So I think if you talk to Mr. Zazzari and Dean, they can tell you what I have been done to help them. So I would suggest tomorrow or sometime next week, just to talk to them and get their take on how bad I am to the JP program. Okay? So thank you very much. Yes, Crystal.
Please stop telling members of the public that they can't curse when you know very well that they can curse. And if the lawyer here had integrity, he would advise you of that a long time ago. I hate to be the one to tell you now that I told you so, and here I am. I told you so about Mr. Biral Patel. I was right last year. Well, before that, I want to let you know, Biral, I have here an ethics complaint written out against you. It will be handed in. I'll read it out in a moment. I was right last year about Jerry Shee's involvement in the racist flyers. It wasn't just last year, it was 2019. I was saying it year after year. I was right about it. I was right this year about Biral Patel when I was illegally thrown out of a town council meeting for exposing Democrat corruption. They claim it was not wearing a mask or not being vaccinated. Make no mistake. It was for talking bad about their new golden boy. And I will always be right because I will always expose your corruption. Biral illegally obtained name, date of birth, address, personally identified information, PII, of senior citizens and vulnerable members of the community. If you believe you're a victim of identity theft, financial fraud, don't have to prove it. Please contact Captain Todd of the Edison Police Department at 732-248-7400. You're making me feel a little nervous here, Biral, because ever since I came and I sat down, you're just giving me this glowing look. I feel a little bit nervous. That's why I'm laughing. I don't think anything's funny. I just, you know, is this how other parents, when they come up here to speak, feel intimidated? You said something about being campaign season. It's always campaign season. Have integrity and admit your mistakes. You can't just hide, oh, I'm a candidate, it's election season. They do it year after year. At some point, you're gonna have to get ahead of this. Edison BOE member, and this is from the ethics complaint. Edison BOE member Baral Patel has been helping, favoring his family and friends by pushing them above the queue, especially related to student enrollment and bus service. It is discrimination against others who have been waiting for their application to be processed in the queue. The school needs to process the application on first-come, first-served basis, and Baral Patel exceeded his powers to push some of his friends' cases above the priority line. He himself publicly stated in one of the BOE meetings held on 9/21/21 that he has been helping many people who approached him, which is supposed to be the BOE administrator's job. Please refer to the I gave them the YouTube link. It's at 49 minutes and 48 seconds at the Edison BOE website. He clearly violated 18A 12-24(1) C and D by involving himself in the daily operation of the Board of Education, rather limiting himself to the policy making and planning. Means you're supposed to come here, make a vote, make decisions when it's time to make your decision, not take over Dr. Bragan's job. So, yeah, like somebody asked me in the crowd if I can prove any of this. I don't have to prove everything. You admitted. When you got people their COVID vaccines, you illegally obtained their personal information. Worst of all, you got their personal identified information. That's even, you can reset your passwords with that. This is where financial fraud happens. Are you authorized to get that information from members of the community? Did the Board of Education authorize you to get that? Dr. Bragan, did you authorize him to go around the community misrepresenting himself the way he always does, as he's always been accused of, to get personal identified information? Did you guys try to put a stop to him? Because you knew he was here at every meeting. He says, I'm going to get the vaccines for all these people. And you can't give people these vaccines without this information. Why didn't you put a stop to him? Lawyer, why didn't you put a stop to him? Even though I know you say, there's an I know you said that there's an exemption or whatever, and you guys can't be held liable, but it's about ethics. It's about integrity. Why don't you guys have any integrity to clearly stop someone you know is overreaching? And you knew he was also pushing out the false, he's not a doctor, he's not even a doctor, this guy. Burrell, did you move people on the list from 50 to 1st? Did you try to get did you get another BOE member relative a job at the BOE? That's a very simple question. Did you go to the Board of Education and speak to Board of Education employees? These are reasonable questions to ask. To lash out at members of the public, to tell members of the public, come and say thank you to me even when I do wrong. Don't you think that's narcissistic, Burrell? Are you ever going to take responsibility for your actions? Do you think you can just hide behind the EDO? Don't look at the time. It doesn't matter. It's 7 seconds left. Do you think you can hide behind Governor Murphy's endorsement all the time? That scumbag Governor Murphy? I'll be back for my rebuttal. Answer the questions, too. You never answer my questions. And the other day, he asked you a question. He said, do you follow the rules, Jerry? You didn't even answer that, because we all know you don't even follow the rules. You made illegal policies.
Time's up. Time's up.
Christo, I'm going to answer you. So, Christo, if you have something to file, you listen, Christo?
Yes, sir.
If you have something to file, please go ahead and file, right, about the PHI. I think it's PHI, right, not PII, because from where I work and, understand, I think it's called PHI.
PII,
right?
personal identified
it's
information.
PII, okay, I'm hearing that for the first time, but good to know that.
Good to pretend like it's the first
yes,
time.
please,
Crystal, sit down. Sit down. Sit down. Sit down. Sit down.
So please go ahead and file, Christo. And then second thing is, about I'm not a doctor. Yes, I wish I were. I wouldn't be sitting here. And the third thing is about helping people, Christo. So why don't you join me in that efforts? You send me messages and you call me for many things, like Edison cops are racist and this person is bad and that person is bad and things like that. How about for a change, next time call me that I'm available for helping some person in the community. I would go with you, do ABC, XYZ and help someone. Let's do that. I would be happy to welcome you over there. All right? Thank you.
Okay. Crystal, to answer your question, if you think that I'm not following the rule, file complaints with authority and let them investigate. Okay? Thank you. Yes, Tony.
Tony DePasquale, 2 Pine Street. So one of the questions that I have, I guess for Dr. Bragan for the board, because we have the transportation issues, we have the enrollment issues, and Dr. Bragan, it seems like, he's doing a lot of work to get all this taken care of. And I'm just curious, are we short on personnel? I mean, I know we don't have a business administrator, so I'd like to know, number one, what's happening with that. I know we have an assistant, but from the past, and I could be wrong, but the business administrator was the one that usually took care of the busing contracts and all that. And it seems like, from what I'm hearing, Dr. Bragan is taking care of that. So, that's not really his responsibility from what I understand, and I could be wrong. So, with the enrollment issue, I know we had a lot of students that registered, but is it the process that we have, or again, is it we don't have enough staffing to process that? At times of enrollment, do we think about possibly bringing in contractors or part-time people to assist with that? Because I know a parent who contacted me and they said from June, they were still waiting and they still didn't get enrolled in school. So, I mean, I know we have a lot of funding, we have a lot of money because we know all this extra funding has come in. So I'm just curious, again, what's the status on a BA? Because to have our superintendent do a dual role, to me, in a large school district like this, is just it's not prudent. It's not fair to Dr. Bragan. I don't think it's fair to the staff. I don't think it's fair to the school district, number one. And like I said, number two, maybe we should think about at certain times when, the staff or the office is going to have a large amount of applications to process, that maybe you guys can bring in, extra staff or part-time people to be able to do that. Because in my eyes, we have a Board of Education. I know Dr. Bragan is the hiring person, but you guys are all also responsible for making sure that this district is running well, not just Dr. Bragan alone. So from my eyes, it kind of looks like that there might be some issues with overall managing of personnel as far as, do we have enough? I'm not saying managing the staff themselves, but do we have enough staff in the administration for what needs to be done? The second thing that I want to say, and unfortunately, again, we had a resident come up here who said, what was that? Oh, he didn't want to talk political, but he did. And Mr. Shi, you were okay with that, which I know why you were okay with that, because your supporters, you can care less what they say because they can say anything they want. So you won't stop people who will just say things. And this is not a political forum. And
I'm not even stopping you. So.
I have never said I'm now going to talk political. Never. So don't say I ever did. I've never said I'm going to talk political now. Okay, number one. Number two, this person, again, you didn't correct him. Mr. Biru Patel, I'm looking at the Transportation Committee here list, and it looks like Dr. Chen is the chair of it, Ms. Budovsky's on it, Mr. Shi's on it, and Mr. Patel's on it. But this resident is saying to Mr. Patel, why didn't you say anything about us not meeting? Why is it Mr. Patel's job to bring up, well, the Transportation Committee didn't meet, when you have somebody who is the chair of the Transportation who hasn't met? She should be the one who is scheduling meetings. Now, when this transportation issue happened a few weeks ago, why was there not an emergency meeting called by the committee to discuss this? I don't get it. You're okay with misinformation coming out here, but you're not holding your board members accountable who are in charge of a committee to help solve a problem. So could you please answer that? Because I would appreciate that. Thank you.
Board President, Mr. Shi, can I?
Let Dr. Bregan answer that.
But
Just on a few of those things, Tony, I appreciate you looking out for my well-being, but for some time now, I've been working as the acting BA as well as the superintendent, and I do believe I have the capacity to do that, and I have a great assistant here in Ann Gluck and all that she does and the responsibility she takes on. We do have that position advertised, and we're hopeful to get a candidate that meets our criteria. As you said, we're a large district, almost a $300 million budget. This is not a job that anyone could easily do. I have some experience. I worked as an assistant BA while I was the superintendent Hazlet in Highlands for over 10 years. So I'm used to that dual capacity. And I don't think I'm overtaxed, but I appreciate your concern for my well-being. Regarding short on personnel, I think I said earlier, we were short a transportation supervisor because our current and acting transportation supervisor over the summer decided to leave. It's our right, it's our privilege to, give us notice and go somewhere else, but unfortunately, that was a bad timing for us as we start the school year, when we not only bid for those external routes, but we have to coordinate all those efforts and make sure everything's set in place for opening of school. So we are down a transportation supervisor, and we have someone hired. The board did commit to do that, and he will start. He's leaving his current position. He will start on October 25th, I believe. So that was an issue. Regarding the enrollment, we cross-trained our staff at the Education Center, understanding that during times of enrollment, right, and the end of the summer and beginning of September, there's an influx of people, more than traditional. I was down in the office today. Mrs. White was down. We were looking at some things down there. There was no one in there. There were no parents, no one trying to enroll. If you went down there 2 weeks ago, there would have been a line out the door, right? So we recognize that there's an influx of people at the beginning of the school year, and we cross-trained staff, including our attendance investigators and some other administrative support staff in the building. They were there helping out. It's just, we got to do better. And, I don't think it's a staffing issue. I think it was a management issue. I think it was a systemic problem, as Mr. Shi alluded to earlier. The online registration process, for whatever reason, and we're going to debrief and figure out what it is and correct it moving forward, it didn't work with the efficacy that we would expect it to. Nobody should have to come to the building. You should be able to upload all your documents, get it set up, get the information electronically. We create the enrollment folders and we get them to the schools. It should be quicker, and we have to look at what we can do. But we did send additional staff, and I don't think it was the staffing issue. I really don't think that was where the bottleneck was. The Transportation Committee, I understand your concerns, but when we found out on, as I said, I think it was September 8th, that Tuesday, we were in triage mode. We didn't have time to schedule a board meeting, and no disrespect to our board members and all their commitment they do for us. Plus, that's also an administrative job to figure out what we're going to do to negate the impact of that change and try to get those 700 students on buses as quickly as possible. I was in constant communication with the board president, which is typically what we do on a daily basis, but we haven't even had a board meeting since then yet, right? This is the first board meeting, with the exception of the special meeting the other day, since that time to discuss it as a full board. So I don't know if an emergency committee meeting would have done anything. I don't know if the direction of the committee could have done anything differently than what we've already done, except if we were going to wait for that, we would have wasted more time. So that's my thoughts.
Okay, thank you. Yeah.
Just one suggestion. There's two Mr. Patels on this board here. If you can just refer to the first name as well and make sure you address the right Patel, because I don't want any negative aspects to go through the wrong Patel. Thank you.
Excuse me. All right. So, Dr. Bregan just mentioned that if we have a committee meeting for an hour, we're taking the people away from doing their job for an hour. Okay? So I have a lot of communication with Dr. Bregan on this, and they're doing their job. and we can probably set up a meeting afterwards. We'll look at what are the things that we need to do afterwards. But when it's in the height of trying to get things done, it's a counterproductive to have a meeting, is to have a meeting's sake. The meeting's not gonna solve anything. They're doing their work. That's what it is. As far as, political attack, whatever, I'm not gonna even comment on it. You know what, every time you come here, what you say. So, you have attacked a lot of people. So for you to be all of a sudden became a saint, I don't think that's, you gotta go back, look yourself in the mirror before you accuse anybody else. Thank you. Yeah, Patty.
Good morning, Dr. Bragan and board members. Padmaja Chinta from Edison. Like other parents, I have come here today to share my frustration at what is happening in our district. I thought we had enough serious issues to deal with, but this week's special board meeting brought an even bigger overarching concern to the front, and that is what seems to be a complete lack of accountability and planning. I watched the video of the last meeting because the live stream was not working for me. I'm not here to comment on the resolution. I simply want to note that the comments made by some of the board members were frankly mind-boggling. The fact that the Transportation Committee did not even meet once was absolutely mind-boggling to me. What was even more mind-boggling was that the board member in charge of the committee said it was her duty to support the board president on a resolution, which is fine. But it made me wonder why you did not feel it was your duty as chair of the committee to ensure smooth transportation was available for our children. Why you did not feel it was your duty to help the parents who are feeling so much frustration and disruption and helplessness with the busing situation. I mean, you found your voice to support a fellow board member, but not the children and parents of Edison, which I think is unfortunate. The Transportation Committee, I think, should have met over the summer, should have been proactive and planned properly. But it seems that it was not even reactive and did not meet even after the school reopened when the busing is such a mess. I think this is not acceptable. I also believe the district was not proactive and should have been proactive in addressing learning for our quarantined students. We installed special wide-angled cameras last year in the classes to facilitate remote synchronous learning. So we have the infrastructure already in place, the technology is already there, it was already used and implemented last year. So I don't understand why this was not used at the beginning of the school year, right from September 1st, so that any students in quarantine did not have to miss classes and could have avoided learning loss. So, especially the learning loss can be significant, especially if we're talking about middle and high school levels. Then my last point is actually about the food being served in our schools. Many parents have shared on different social media groups that their children have complained about the quality of the food as well as sometimes even the quantity. And I thought it was surprising for the board president to say that he had heard differently from other board members with children in the schools. There's nothing wrong in that, which is fine. There are some parents and some children that are happy with the food, but there are many that are not. And why their voices are not being heard properly. We feel like our voices are not being heard, and as board members, we want the board as the board, we want all board members to represent the concerns of all of our children and all the parents. Thank you.
I'd like to address some of those issues. As far as a lack of accountability and planning, I don't think that's accurate, Ms. Chinta. Transportation was set up. We were ready to go. The routes were there. when two vendors tell me that they're not going to honor a contract for 51 routes, no matter what transportation committee met or when they met, wouldn't have made any difference. To get up there and say there was a lack of planning is not, it's not accurate. It's your perception and you're entitled to it, but that's not fair. And to somehow think the transportation committee would have been able to mitigate that when it did happen, again, I think that might be a misrepresentation. Our board members volunteer their time through great effort to govern the Board of Education, not to administer to it, not to mitigate deficits, not to come here when there's an emergency and come up with a plan. That's my job. That's our administrative team's job. And we're doing the best we can. Did it work 100%? No. I'm the first one to tell you that. We got 300 students that still aren't being transported. That's not successful. That's not a successful thing. It's frustrating. We're doing the best we can. But in some way to blame these board members or not having a committee, that's just not fair. I don't think that's fair.
Dr. Bregan, can I interject something for 1 second?
Of course.
I just want to, there's been a lot of comments today about ethics and what the board's role is or isn't. And I just think the members of the public should be aware that the New Jersey School Boards Association and the Department of Education tell every single school board member that their job is not to run the school, but to see that the school is well run. And what that means is they're not allowed to be hands-on on a day-to-day basis with these departments. And when there are issues, that is the role of the superintendent. Their job is to make policy and really make policy only. And when you say that there's a committee that should have met when there's an emergency that's going on, to Dr. Bregan's point, it would not have only been improper for the committee to have met and told Dr. Bregan what to do. It's actually unethical. It's an ethics violation under the Department of Education and statutory guidelines. So I just want to make sure that the public has an understanding of what the function of the board is and what their role and rights are and what their obligations are. Because if they interfere with Dr. Bregan and his day-to-day administration, he can file ethics charges against them.
Thank you, sir. Okay. Just on the other two issues, the hybrid instruction and the remote instruction wasn't permissible. We do have plans in place for those students that are quarantined due to illness or exposure, and they are getting their virtual supplemental instruction. They do have access to the class as it's going on to keep up with their studies and their work. So that is in place. And regarding the food issue, I've said this before, I'll say it again. Anytime you're preparing breakfast and lunch for potentially 17,000 students on a daily basis, whether you're Chartwell's, Mascios, Sodexo, or any other iteration of the food services industry companies, they don't always get it right. You're working with something that sometimes it gets spoiled or isn't done 100% right. We don't accept it. We don't think that's appropriate, but it happens. And when it does happen, it's our responsibility to address it and ensure it doesn't happen again. So if you or any other member of the public hears something on a WhatsApp group or in any other, I don't even know the social media things. As I get older, I don't know what they are, but send it to me. Send it to the building principal, send it to me. Hey, there's an issue with this school, that school, the lunch, the dinner, whatever it is. And we'll address it. We'll do our best. And if those things present themselves on a regular basis, I'll bring it to the board and we have to look at maybe different options. And they will, and they have. So, thank you.
As far as what you addressed, I'm expressing one side of the opinion as well, right? So if I actually heard differently. That is the truth. I'm not lying. I'm saying that didn't mean that I override people's concerns. In the email, in the text, you should have seen, we will continue to look for improvement. You forgot to mention that. That's what I'm looking for, right? We'll continue to look for improvement. We just had a conversation with our food vendor Tuesday when they came in to prepare for the food. We had a discussion about them. We talked about the portions. We talked about that, right? All those things are going on. It's not that, I'm not advertising. That means that's not going on, but things are going on. We have actively seeking feedback from the building principals. We have seek feedback from the employees. And the truth is, we have board members whose children are eating in the district. We are getting those feedback as well. So as Dr. Bregan says, if there are any specifics for certain things, let us know. We'll address it. Nobody's perfect. Nobody's trying to cut anybody's voice. We're here to serve the entire school district. So to accusing me of not hearing, to not listening to people, that is just absolutely inaccurate. And I have a lot of people, I have a lot of channels that I get the information. I'm just not advertising, that's all. Do we have any first timers? Yes, Brian.
I'm just trying to understand the transportation aspect of this. So I apologize, Dr. Bregan, if I asked you questions that were basic. But when I did a lot of my walking, a lot of people did have tons of issues with transportation. So it's about 9 questions, so I'm just going to say it slow. I'm just curious, how many buses does Edison actually own? How many drivers do we actually employ? What is the salary and the hours of those employees? How many routes does the Edison busing actually do? How many routes are actually outsourced? Is there specific programs being serviced? Meaning, are we looking at the special education population first and our most neediest students? Are we looking into purchasing more buses? And I believe you said that before, so I give you props on that. I was actually curious, when was the last time we actually purchased a bus? One of the things that I hear in these meetings, I always hear Christo talk about the contaminated land of Kilmer. One of my ideas is maybe why don't we make that our transportation center, make that our fleet, purchase buses, house them there, hire our own drivers, hire our own mechanics, do it all in-house. We'll save a lot of money. So if we do get that property, please consider Kilmer as a transportation hub, I guess you could say it. The other thing I want to say is I want to give those children a lot of respect for coming out here and bringing up their concerns. I hope in the future the board considers, I know in my district in the past, before the pandemic, we had our student leaders attend the board meetings all the time. And they gave us they told us what they felt their days were like at Perth Amboy High School. So, I suggest maybe J.B. Stevens Senior Class President or Edison High School Senior Class President be invited to these meetings and discuss what's going on in our buildings. I think it's a great idea. I want to hear what the children have to say, not some of these adults, because that's what I'm here for. In regards to the air conditioning, I heard that it is hot. So I was wondering, in regards to window units, did we look into window units? I know in my building where I was at South Campus, and it was basically St. Mary's, and the electrical work wasn't very good. So every time I turned the air conditioners on in those window units, my power would pop. So I know, I'm curious what the infrastructure is in our buildings. Is it something that we can upgrade, maybe purchase these window units and try to alleviate the heat for some of our kids and our staff members? Because even in here, I'm dying. Maybe I'll probably take the coat off. The other thing too that concerned me too was the child that was discussing about social distancing and was afraid about that. So with the overcrowding, I was wondering if they considered a traffic flow where the kids are not bumping into each other. It's just a direct traffic flow getting place to place. The other thing is that you brought up the cafeteria. And with the cafeteria, I know when I was at the high school, we had staff members that had duties. Are we looking at, maybe we should be looking at these staff members, if they do have duties, to put them in relevant places where they can monitor and supervise our kids. And I think the cafeteria is a spot that would probably need the most supervision, I think, because I'm curious how you're going to contact trace in the cafeteria if something happens. And that's about it, Dr. Bregan. I wish you well. I hope you're having a good school year. I know you're in a difficult position. Keep doing what you're doing, and I know you have the public support. So thank you.
I'll try to go over the questions, Brian, I think I wrote them down. We have about 30 buses. I don't have the exact delineation of how many of those are 54 passengers and shorter buses. The majority are the 24 passenger ones, which aren't the bigger ones. And that's why if we can, we're thinking about renting some in the short term, 8 that are 54 passenger, that'll extend our capacity in those buses. I think we had 27 or 26 drivers. Thereabouts, and about a dozen bus aides that go with them as well. Their work hours are a 35-hour work week, I believe, 7 hours guaranteed a day, 5 days a week.
7.5.
7.5.
By the contract, yes.
So I guess that would be 37.5 hours then. We have about 415 bus routes, and our 30 drivers, our 30 buses and the 27 drivers cover about 90 of those. And that doesn't include after-school events, some of the athletic events, and our late buses are additional routes. So, yeah, so if you look at that, about a quarter of our routes. This would be a topic for our transportation committee when we do meet, is to talk about how many buses we would like to purchase, what are our financial resources to do that, do we want to stream them in over time, and how do we do that, right? I know in the past, I've been here 2 years, we haven't purchased any buses that I know of in the 2 years, but we just got done paying a lease on one of the buses, so I think we bought a few over the last couple of years.
Yes, we purchased some when with the James Monroe School. Instead of paying for the transportation fee, but for the insurance company, we purchased, I don't remember, a handful of buses. Yes.
And as I said earlier, I think we're at a point now where the cost effectiveness of having our own fleet and our own drivers is beneficial for us to do that rather than subcontract out. So we're going to look at exploring that with the committee and with the board as we come back. As far as representation from students, we actually talked about that with a few board members earlier before the meeting, that we're going to seek to have board representation from each high school, student representatives, where they come and say, you know, what's going on at the high schools and what's going on there, and then they can go back and, they don't have to sit for the entire meeting. But I think that's a good idea, and it's something that we were actually talking about earlier this evening. Window units for air conditioning, it's great, and it does make the people in that room feel more comfortable, and there's a number of classrooms that do have that, where there's a requirement either for student needs or staffing needs to do that. The problem is, as you said, the electrical load in many of our buildings can't handle it. And, I think about the Lincoln School as a great example. You can't put any more window units in there. The circuit breakers will pop every time you turn them on. So that is a consideration with any type of upgrade with the window units, that the capacity of the electric input in the building can't handle it, and the building that can handle it is the one that has central air conditioning at Monroe. So it's a long-term fix over time. We hope to do that and get all the HVAC fixed in all our buildings, but that's not going to happen in the next 12 or 18 months.
Yeah, just to add on to that, when we are looking for expansion, we're adding wings and stuff to the schools. At the same time, we upgrade the circuit. Okay, once that's upgraded, there is a possibility for that. But the other thing is, it all comes to priority. Right? Do we put our priority on the classrooms, the kids who have no seats, or we put into these air conditioning units? And we know the window units is not energy efficient. The most energy efficient is the central air. And the other thing we are looking in is using the solar, those kind of grants to help with that. So we're all looking into it. And it just, right now there are a lot of issues. And the priority for us, what to do first, right? You came back with a lot of suggestions for things. So if you don't mind, you can stay, we can talk how your school is doing to address the cafeteria overcrowding issues. We are, I don't know how many kids in your school, right? 400, okay, so we'll talk afterwards, right? So how you're doing to do the contact tracing, how you're doing to do the social distance at the lunchtime. We want to hear that. If there's anything that we can do, we'll look into it, okay? So if you don't mind, stay for a couple of minutes, we can have exchange, or you send me emails, and we can go from there. Thank you. The other thing I just forgot to ask, to answer is about the food. In several schools, they actually have a food committee. The school work with the food vendor to talk about the issues in the school. So I don't know which school your children is. I don't know what they're set up, but I know for the fact there are quite a handful of schools, they have that committee. So maybe it's a good idea to take a lead on something like that, set up a committee, and have a monthly or bi-weekly conversation with the food vendor to address specific concerns for the school. That will help them as well. Okay, so thank you. Do we have any first-timers? Okay.
Rebuttals.
Yeah. No, I'll have Patty come first. Ladies first, come.
Thank you. I just want to make clear that I did not accuse the board president or any other board members of anything.
Thank you.
That is simply not what I do. I was simply sharing that some parents feel that their voices are not being heard to the same extent as some other parents. And then on the transportation committee, I understand there is distinction between what the administration can do and what committees can do. My point is sometimes even taking symbolic, simple actions can send a message of support. The fact that, the committee did not feel the need to address distressed parents, even that simple thing could have, assured or at least, made the parents feel comfortable. Then the point about the synchronous learning, I'm not sure I understood, so please correct me if I'm wrong, Dr. Bragan. My understanding is at high school level, kids in quarantine only have 5 hours of instruction. So that is basically 1 hour per day. Is that not, has that changed now? And you're saying that the synchronous learning, the videos would be available? Because even on elementary school level, I still understand that parents are going and walking to the elementary schools to pick up packets. So not sure how the synchronous or remote learning is actually happening. So if you can clarify that, thank you.
Regarding the instruction for students quarantined and those that are on or positive for COVID and are not permitted to come to school, I actually had a few texts from some administrators here now that they said I didn't say what I said before, and we'll revisit that tomorrow. The expectation is that in the classroom, the cameras will be left on. There won't be interaction. So if Brian Rivera is on quarantine and Bernie's the teacher while I'm teaching the class, I'm not going to be asking Brian questions. He's not going to be interacting. But I will have to speak to the principals, as I was told that I wasn't clear on that, so I'll be clear tomorrow, that the cameras are on. But the teachers are not expected to interact at that point, because as we heard from a number of people over the course of the last year, that hybrid instruction is exhausting to teachers and it's not sustainable. And that if I'm attending to the 5 students that are home and the 20 students in the class, at some point they're both suffering, right? I'm not either attending to the kids in front of me or the kids there, as much as we try to replicate that as much as we can. So what we've done, and we've done this in consultation with the superintendent's roundtable with the other districts in the county, what we set up was where we would leave the cameras on, and the students have access to the Google Classroom, and they can access all their assignments virtually like they normally would. And they will be provided supplemental virtual instruction at the end of the day, between 5 hours to 10 hours per week, depending on the student, the needs, the accessibility, the scheduling, and all that. And I will meet with the principals tomorrow, and we'll go over that. If that wasn't clear, we will make that clear. I don't think that's any issues or presents it. It's not the best instruction, but the best instruction is in the classroom with the teachers. And if someone's quarantined for a period of time, a week or perhaps 2 weeks, as the 14-day period might be, we're going to do the best we can to accommodate it, but we had this plan in place. So, like my dad used to always say to me, communication is normally the problem, and it's usually the answer too, right? So we'll try to get on the same page and try to alleviate any miscommunication.
I just want to touch base on this correct me if I'm wrong, Dr. Reagan. So for these staff, of course, going to teach these kids for like the 5 hours in a week, there might not be necessarily the same classroom teacher.
Correct.
Right? So actually, there was a suggestion to me is it possible we can recruit the same classroom teacher to pay them a little extra instead of paying the other staff that we try to recruit, let them just help their own kids when the kids are being quarantined. So that's something we can, if we can look into it, because I know there are some difficulty of recruiting these teachers who go out and teach those kids, and some of these teachers, they're not teaching it's not necessarily the same subject. They have to go look at, the syllabus and the curriculum, try to catch up. So it might be a little bit harder for them to get there. And if we can open up the possibility to have the same classroom teacher to teach them and pay them a little extra, just if that will help. That was actually one of the suggestions I forgot to mention.
Okay, yeah, no worries. We could look into that, but Mr. Shi, any kind of deviation from that would require an agreement with our association, because there's parameters for payment of that. And if the teacher or teachers that the student has was willing to volunteer, that would make sense. But, in the high school, you could have 6, 7 teachers during the course of the day.
Yes, that's a little hard.
It's probably easier if to accommodate it in elementary, but we will definitely see if that's something we could do.
Yeah, this is a suggestion from one of the elementary teacher.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay? Yes.
First, Dr. Pagan, thank you for going to all the schools. I salute you for that. But one thing is, I will add on top of that, when you grab the job, you should have asked each principal, what are the problems in the schools? And I believe that time Ms. Polkowski was there, and she would have gave you an outline of 3 pages. Auditorium here, seats problem, AC problems, some of the lights problem that's back there for the theater. You got a problem in the music department, their AC wasn't working for quite a long time. There's other side of the school that had same issues. So I think even today, you could ask tomorrow all principals, kindly outline what are your problems and what are your priorities. And I'll bet you will get a list from each principal. And I'm sure you could ask today's principal. And Ms. P used to write all these down. I'm sure it's in her office, and you'll find it. Now, going back to transportation, I know there's a lot of stops in each route. Can you maybe gather up? I'll give you a simple example. I live by the Beatrice Parkway. It's between Inman and McKinley. And Alice is on the other side, Beatrice is on this side. What happened is bus stops on both sides, total of 2 times each. But we have a Beatrice Parkway as a park there. Why don't you gather all the students at one location, because it's centrally. And you could have maybe half a bus filled right there and bus comes back. Every district or every ward has a park. Maybe we could find a way to bring most kids there and just maybe a one little stop somewhere. And maybe you will solve the bigger problem. If all the parents are there, maybe we could take I know I used to do it when I used to, with my kids. When I'm going, I'll pick up the kids and drop them off somebody else's kids, because that's the way you do it. Well, if parents, I was looking at today, one of the stops, 2 mothers were standing, 8 kids. And I asked one of them, my God, she goes, Minash, you know these are not my kids. I only got 1, the rest of the 7 is friends. So they will help out. But I think we need to gather up, and maybe you might solve your transportation problem. See if your team could look into it. And that should I'm helping you, Jerry. I'm not trying to beat up on you.
That's fine.
So I think that would help, sir.
Yeah, I try to
Right.
follow the rule, that's all. The rule apply to everybody.
Can I respond?
Yes,
Board
go
President? Just on that, and I appreciate that feedback. What I have learned since taking a higher degree of ownership in the transportation, because we don't have a supervisor, is that several of the routes we looked at are grossly inefficient, like you mentioned. And just redoing them in an efficient manner would reduce a lot of these problems. That definitely needs attention, and we will look at that, 100%. And I do appreciate your thought about talking to the principals. I do that, and when we planned the budget, this year's budget, in December of last year, I met with every principal, every department head, every department and supervisor area, and we came up with their 2 goals. What are the 2 things you want most than anything? And then as a district, we talk to the Finance and Facility Committee, and we try to triage the ones that are the most pressing, and we try to meet those needs. So I don't think Dr. Schallop or anyone agree. Some of the needs you mentioned in this building are accurate, and we try to triage the most important needs, as Mr. Shee said, as quickly as we can. We can't fix everything all at once, but I am aware of most of the principals' expectations and their highest level needs. So, but thank you, that's good feedback.
Actually, we said that see if we can give them number 3, right? Instead of top 2,
That
we're
is
just trying to
true,
see if
yeah.
we at the committee meeting, we talked about that and just see how much it's gonna cost us with the third item, okay? Yes, Tony? Patty, you got twice, so no second time, sorry. You can talk to me afterwards.
Tony Pasquale, Pine Street. I'm directing these questions to the president, Mr. Shee, so I hope he would respond to these. So again, on the Transportation Committee, you have Dr. Chen, Ms. Brodowski, Jerry, and Bureau Platel. So what I'm confused about, Mr. Shee, you said that you didn't want to take people away from trying to solve the transportation issue. Okay, these people that are on this committee were not the ones that were trying to solve the transportation issue. It was Dr. Bragan and the administration. So for this committee, to me, would not have taken away from the administration and the work that they were doing to solve this, okay? So what I'm confused about is, why do you even have committees if you're not going to use them? Okay, you also said we haven't had a board meeting up until today. Well, you had one 2 days ago. Yes, a special meeting, but it was a board meeting. So let me get this straight now. Okay, you felt it was the need to have a special meeting to have a bogus resolution, in my opinion, against one of the board members. But an issue as big as 700 kids not having buses to go, what you could have done was this committee could have met, discussed it. You could have then called a board meeting so they could have given a report on the transportation. Like that would have been my priority, is to let the residents know via board meeting, and that the committee was discussing possible issues and possible solutions that could have then been brought to Dr. Bragan and the administration through the board meeting. So what I don't understand is, again, you felt the decision you had to make over the past month was, okay, transportation or have a resolution against a board member, which is going to affect the kids more? Well, I would think the transportation would. So that should be your priority, because that is the priority of the Board of Education first, is the children. Okay? Then, after that, you could have had this special meeting and did whatever else you wanted to, but you could have easily called a board meeting at any time that you wanted to address this. And I don't understand why you would have not have done that. That's what I'm getting to. And if you're not going to use the committees, disband them all. It's your responsibility to make sure that these committees are doing what they're supposed to be doing. That's your job as the president, because you give each of the board members a role on each committee. Thank you.
Okay, Thank you. Thank you for your passionate statement, but I think, you actually ran for school board, so you should understand how the BOE works, okay? And, what you just said is advocating for interference with the running of the school, okay? What report that Dr. Yuna Chen is going to have it, would have from employee taken away from their day-to-day work, okay? I cannot have a committee, 4 people talking about, without Dr. Reagan be there, without Rich Benedict be there, without some other people to be there to talk about the issues, okay? So we don't know what the details going on. So having a committee as a symbolic that we actually work, that's not the way it is. I said it, okay? It's not just having a meeting to have a meeting's sake, to show. It's not a show and tell. It is try to get the work done. You don't know that Dr. Bregan has have daily conversation with me on this topic every single day, okay? He's doing his job. I'm not gonna go there, have a meeting to take him away from what he's doing and his people is doing to have a committee just for the sake of having a committee, and then call a board meeting to show that we actually are doing it. I know he is doing it. The 700 number now dropped to what, 270, is that it?
By Monday.
By Monday. That's what needs to be done. It's not a show and tell. The board meeting is not a show and tell, okay? We need to get the work done. That's what we are here for. Thank you.
Board President, Mr. Shi.
Thank you.
Board President Shi,
Yes.
can I add something to that?
Yes.
Just to add on to that, most of your Facebook groups, WhatsApp groups, they were actually telling you when you posted this is an issue, they were telling you there's a nationwide shortage for bus drivers. They were telling you there's a shortage for bus drivers in the state. They were telling you issues with getting a license for driving a bus. And you already know that, but you have to bring it up here because it's politics, and that's what it is right now. So you already have the answer. Thank you.
Okay. Sorry, you can't have it. You only have two times, okay? No, you don't. No.
I think, with all these discussions, we are missing the teachers, how they're handling the full capacity of the teachers. Last night at 11:15, a Spanish teacher, her name is Miss Finnegan from John Adams Middle School, my daughter's teacher. She says that, oh, your Spanish 100 numbers are good, but from the 40 to 45, you need to improve. And if you don't do it well first time, it takes 7 times more time next time. Tell me that how many teachers can go to entire 25 students, listen to 1 to 100, tell exactly 40 to 45 your pronunciation is not correct. If you don't fix it now, it is going to take 7 times more effort. I think we need to actually start talking good stuff, that 99% of the things that are happening. So I think, I blame myself as well for bringing the political things, but I still bring it because obviously he tried to belittle me saying that, oh, I'm political. I tried to help Mr. Birol, saying that constructive feedback I gave it to him. So he tried to say that I'm stooping down to the political attacks. I think, Mr. Birol, if I want to bring it to political attacks, I would have brought up Dhirana means that you theft something on the Facebook, I would have brought it up. That is what belittling you. If I want to talk about...
Excuse me.
It's fine. Don't disturb me, sir. Don't disturb me. Mr. Pandya had 14 people. You were scared. I could have exposed you how you made Mr. Pandya lose the elections last time. I would have exposed you. I was here. I supported it. And 14 people were there. And there are some political employees sitting with Mr. Joshi and Mr. Mayor. Oh, I need a library board. I need this board and that board. Their life is only to apply for BOI job, give it to their nephews, and talk falsehood. I don't give anything about those people, ask about proof. They think that they're calling collaboration.
Excuse me?
You call it. I will do it.
Order.
Yeah. He calls a Democrat. He's a pseudo-Republican.
Don't bring the politics.
He thinks it's collaboration. He conspires, charting, talking, getting feedback. He is colluded with political and employees.
Yeah, don't
His
interfere.
day in and day out is, but he's stopping me.
Don't interfere with the audience.
Okay.
Yes.
All I'm trying to, Mr. Biral, that I gave a constructive feedback with the 3. So you try to belittle me. That's why I'm trying to ask these questions. You can see the reason why I was upset last time was you told to a couple of my friends, our common friends, that you will sue me. That's why I brought it up and said something. Now we brought around 8 or 9 people communicating. It's conspiracy, not collaborating. That's where I'm standing up. I'm alone. And people are spreading rumors that my kid is not here. Yes, I have 2 kids. 1 kid is still in the school. Do whatever you want, defamation or whatever it is. I am standing up, and I have a right to question every elected person. Because instead of electing Brian Rivera, instead of electing Cristo, instead of electing Paddy, I supported that guy over here. And there were 14 people who were scary he was scared to go to the parking lot. Me and Bimal Joshi Bhai stand there for him till right 11:30. That's all I want to say. Yeah, the corrupt police are here. That's all I can say. Thank you.
Did I call you?
Am I being recognized?
Did I call you?
I'm the last one. You let everyone, no one else. Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. I didn't.
Well, let him go first. Yeah, go first. You sit a little bit. All right, I'll save the best to the last. All right, how's that? Okay? You're coming to the cleanup. Stop. Well, you can have your say when you come to the podium. All right?
Just a couple of questions. Dr. Braga, you said when a kid's under quarantine, the cameras are on in the classroom? The only reason why I ask is because in where I currently work, if a child does go into quarantine, we do have the cameras open. We're not doing concurrent teaching, but if the child's assignments are there in the Google Meets, and I'm sorry, the Google Drives, but the teacher does go in and check on to the child just to make sure the child's okay, and then goes back into doing what they're doing. So I only bring it up because it seems to be working for us. So it's just a suggestion for you. I really hope the kids have that opportunity.
Hey, Tony. Tony, can you stop? It's interfering.
The other thing I just wanted to ask too, do the kids have an opportunity if they bring their own lunch? Because I know lunches are tight, but also it's time restricted. So if they do have the opportunity to bring their own lunches, do they have the opportunity to go outside and eat? Are you still going to look into doing that? And Mr. Shi, when we talk, there's been, I guess every grade level has a different plan. So I worked on the plan for elementary, but I also have the plan for the high school, and I'll be willing to meet with you and share with you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Dr. Berg, you wanna-
Yeah, we do plan to have the cameras on, similar to what you said. And I happen to know Dr. Rahman, and we were all on the same page when we put this plan together. I think it came up earlier, maybe it wasn't properly articulated to everyone, and I'll take ownership for that we'll revisit that tomorrow. Regarding the lunches, we are exploring other options to allow kids to eat outside. As we have a bid opening tomorrow, I think, on some tents like we had last year. The prices went up significantly, so we wanted to bid that out so we get a best deal on that. And yeah, everyone can always bring their own lunch. That's always an option. Lunches and breakfasts are free for everyone this year, though. So, I would imagine many kids would take part in that because there's no cost, not just for the students that were eligible, but for everyone for this year. Everyone's always entitled to bring their own lunch, though, 100%.
Yeah, just to add on, the participation rate has been in the mid-30s, and this year the participation rate went high. In the first couple of weeks, I think it was in the mid-50s. So, we'd like to see more kids participating in the program, to save some effort for the parents to packing the breakfast and lunch and stuff. Of course, we have to provide the food they can eat. So that's what we'll continue to do. And really, if there's issues, talk to the PTOs and PTSOs to see if they can have a committee and work with the vendor. They'll be more than willing to work with each school. Okay? Thank you. Yes, Crystal. Finish it up. Yes.
You're the last one.
As I was walking away, some BOE member made some accusations, Zero Integrity BOE member made some accusations. It's what desperate people do. They character assassinate because they can't stick to the facts. Lawyer, is it a ethics charge if a BOE member messages members of the public accusing other BOE members of committing crimes they never committed? Would that be an ethics charge?
You know the truth.
Would it be an ethics charge if Biral Patel constantly messages members of the public accusing Mohan Patel of everything under the sun, blowing up the moon, throwing babies out of incubators? It's not funny. No, Jerry, I'm telling you the truth. You too, he accuses you. What's so funny about it? Is that an ethics violation? Because every election season, for the whole year, since it's a pattern with this guy. He disappears, you don't never see him, then all of a sudden every time he runs for something, he pops up. He pops up, then he'll message you. That's when he messages me. Never asks you for anything. It's usually trolling you. You told me you were going to get me signatures in my district. I don't need you to get me signatures in my district.
Can you guys, security, can you go outside, see what's going on?
I only need one signature for my district, and I can sign myself, Baral. So trolling you, you said I'm a racist. No, I accused you of racism. I accused Akil of racism. And I accused Krushan Patel of racism, and Shivi knows it. Shivi knows something about it, of the Muslim flyers in 2019. You don't know it, Shivi? When you said, okay, on the last day you can release it? You don't remember that, Shivi? I'll testify under oath to that. So, as far as I'm concerned, people that created racist flyers against Muslims are sitting up there. People that created racist flyers against Chinese and Indians are sitting up there. No wonder why I'm calling this guy and that guy a racist, Baral. Have you ever just wondered, maybe because you guys are racist, maybe at the last meeting I was sitting at, Jerry, somebody kept on screaming Chinese this, Chinese that, and I want to tell you this, Jerry, I was excited it was happening, not because of what he was saying, because as a director, I like to have it recorded so people can actually see people's true character, so they can see what I've been saying all this time is real. That's why I was excited. But I was also upset because no one should treat you that way. You're a volunteer, Jerry. And that's real racism, lawyer, not when I bring up ethnic groups and say, when I'm saying you shouldn't target this or that. I'm not going to mention that. So after this meeting, if I show you messages of him accusing members of the BOE of committing crimes they have not committed, would that be another ethics charge for me? That would be my second one on Baral. And I'm getting very close to writing a third one, too. And one on you too, Jerry. One on you too, Jerry, for, can I say why? I know I'm done, but can I say why the ethics
Your time's
on you?
up, you can talk to me or whatever you want to do with it.
Okay, the ethics charge on you, because when I ran against you, Jerry Shee, you
No,
put...
your time, is his time up?
Damn you, Jerry, but you sent out flyers to students and their parents.
Time's up.
Time's
You
up,
actually
man.
gave them
Time's up, man.
checks, and you said the Chinese American...
Time's up.
Is that
Time's
not
up.
an ethics violation on you?
Time's up. Try it. If you think it's an ethical, fire it. File it. Okay? That's a very simple. All right, stop. Okay. All right, do we have any other? Hey, stop. Anybody else? Any other public comments? No, you had twice. That's it. That's rule. Okay, so we're gonna go to the closed session.
Motion.
No. Have to read the
Go ahead.
the thing. Yeah.
Whereas Section 8 of the Open Public Meetings Act, Chapter 231, PL 1975, permits the exclusion of the public from a meeting in certain circumstances, and whereas this public body is of the opinion that such circumstances presently exist, now therefore be it resolved by the Board of Education of the Township of Edison, County of Middlesex, State of New Jersey, as follows. The public shall be excluded from discussions of and action upon the hereinafter specified subject matters. The general nature of the subject matter to be discussed is as follows. Attorney-client privilege discussion regarding litigation brought by former employees, Edison Wetlands Association contract, student matters, ETEA grievances, PERC unfair labor practices, and personnel matters. It is anticipated at this time that the above stated subject matter shall be made public at such time as the need for non-disclosure no longer exists. This resolution shall take effect immediately.
Can I have a motion? Can I have a motion?
Motion.
Do I have a second?
Second. I'll second it.
Okay, Mohan Patel and Mrs. White.
Mr. Burrell Patel?
Yes.
Ms. White?
Yes.
Ms. Madiker?
Yes.
Ms. Podolsky?
Yes.
Dr. Chen?
Yes.
Ms. Conway?
Yes.
Ms. Peng? Mr. Mohan Patel?
Yes.
Mr. Shi?
Yes.
All yes, motion is carried.
All right, so we do not expect to come back for any actions, so I'll see you guys next week. Thank you.